Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Age of Gods, signed to Beiming Kunpeng at the beginning of the game. Chapter 61. Several people also know that Niu Junda and Qinming have a good relationship. Well, at least it looks like this on the surface. Come on, Mavericks, there is no distinction between superiors and subordinates after get off work, and we have dinner together. Sun Shohang smiled. There was excitement in Niu Junda's heart. His boss actually wanted to eat with him. You know, Sun Shohang of the East China Sea City Guarding Bureau, but Niu Junda is currently pursuing the goal. Naturally, Niu Junda will not be polite at the invitation of idols. Boss, I and Lao Qin are good brothers, and Lao Qin will definitely give you a discount on my face. Niu Junda was obviously excited. Yes, I will fracture you. Qinming's voice came from the side. He walked to the side of the dining table and looked at Yang Qianqin with a look of helplessness. Every time this mad woman goes to the store, there must be trouble, and this time it goes without saying that Qinming already knows what it is. The new woman is very strong, and should be the top group of strong men in mankind. For a while, Qinming only felt a terrible headache. Come on, what's the matter this time? Yang Qianqin's eyes stared when he heard the words, is there any mistake that made me look like a plague god? Can't it be impossible to come for a meal? You can eat without a discount. Old Qin, give me a face. Niu Junda looked at Qinming almost beggingly. Qinming didn't respond at all. He really didn't want to deal with Yang Qianqin. If it was the first contact with someone who guarded the bureau, it was not Yang Qianqin who was in charge. Perhaps Qinming would have a much better attitude towards the bureau. However, Yang Qianqin had already been knocked out of trouble in Qinming's heart. He just wants to open a restaurant for the rest of his life. Is it so difficult? Since there is no way to get rid of it, then you can only slaughter the guest. Looking at the back of Qinming's departure, the 5 people looked different, and most of them were speculating about Qinming's intentions. Only Niu Junda looked sad and uncomfortable. Old Qin didn't even give him a face. You are the new star Niu Junda, right? You have a good relationship with the owner of this store. Ouyang Yanyan narrowed her eyes. At present, there is no clue, the only breakthrough point may be Niu Junda here. Of course, Lao Qin is my best brother. Niu Junda said excitedly, happily coming together, and began to take the initiative to speak out the affairs between himself and Qinming. In fact, he and Qinming had nothing to do. The only thing that could be said was that Qinming was on the sidelines when he repelled the evil spirits several times. What Niu Junda said was an excitement, but Ouyang Yanyan found a problem. The reason why Niu Junda can become the new star of the Guardian Bureau and cultivated by Sun Shohang is because this guy has leapfrogged several times to kill the evil spirits alone. The ability to leapfrog to kill is enough to prove the talent strength. But what puzzled Ouyang Yanyan was that Niu Junda was not at the bronze level, and the Guardian Spirit was not that special. It is impossible to leapfrog and kill the warlord level evil spirits. And judging from Niu Junda's confession, there must be someone next to him every time he leapfrogs and kills. That is Qinming. Thinking of this, Ouyang Yanyan was already a little eye-catching. Qinming must have a problem. However, Ouyang Yanyan was not in a hurry. She still observed Qinming in secret, but she felt that she looked exactly like an ordinary person. But how can an ordinary person let an existence like the Demon King work under his hands? Are you messing with me? Soon, several dishes ordered by a few people were carried out of the kitchen by Huo Qingqing. Looking at the delicious food in front of them, everyone only felt their index fingers move for a while. When Yang Qianqin, the foodie, was about to take a shot, Ouyang Yanyan suddenly raised her eyebrows and looked at Huo Qingqing. You cook these meals. Huo Qingqing looked indifferent. I did it, what's wrong, is there a problem? As soon as this statement came out, Ouyang Yanyan was dumbfounded. Is it true that, as Yang Qianqin said, this woman is not a devil and has changed her job as a cook? But Huo Qingqing sneered in her heart. Needless to say, she knew the purpose of this group of people appearing here, it was obviously for themselves. Although Ouyang Yanyan is an emperor-level guardian, Huo Qingqing's strength is not slow to recover. Following Qinming's side, and because of the Chaos Sacred Tree, she has now recovered half of her strength. If you really fight with Ouyang Yanyan, no one can win. But Huo Qingqing is not worried, this is Qinming's sight. Wanting to make trouble, Qinming was the first to refuse. At the moment, she glanced at Ouyang Yanyan contemptuously, twisting her waist and walking back to the kitchen. Such an expression makes Ouyang Yanyan so angry that he is actually despised by a non-human. A meal made by a demon king, can you really eat it? Ouyang Yanyan glared at Yang Qianqun, who was about to do it. She already knows our intentions, and it is very likely that she will do it in the meal. Yang Qianqun was extremely frightened. No, Ouyang big sister, she is also a devil-level figure at any rate, so she shouldn't use such despicable methods. Said Yang Qianqun's expression was very painful, and the food tastes very fragrant. I often come here to eat. Hey, that guy is not a human being. Do you think she will talk about humanity and morality with you? Ouyang Yanyan gave a cold snort as I had seen everything. She must have a conspiracy here. We will affect her plan. If she wants to get rid of us, now is the best opportunity. Wait, what are you doing? Ouyang Yanyan looked at Niu Junda dazedly. Niu Junda put a chopstick's fish-flavored shredded pork into his mouth, chewing happily. Suddenly, Ouyang Yan's gorgeous lungs were about to explode. The feelings that she said just now were all in vain. You wait to die. Niu Junda didn't seem to realize what he did, and looked at everyone blankly. Why don't you guys eat it? Shredded pork with fish flavor tastes great. Ouyang Yanyan sneered at Niu Junda, her eyes seemed to be looking at a corpse. However, Niu Junda's operation directly regarded her as stupid. It seems that the fish-flavored shredded pork tastes great, and I stuffed a few bites into my mouth. Not only that, but I also ate pickled fish and other dishes. After eating, Niu Junda yelled towards the back chef. Huo Qingqing, your hands are shaking today, right? Pickled cabbage fish is so salty. Huo Qingqing's head poked out from the back kitchen. Then you can ask the boss to give you a discount. Qinming's face was full of black lines. Huo Qingqing retracted his head, but stuck his tongue out, and at the same time looked at Chen Gui, who was preparing food. Just now that bowl of pickled fish, she asked Chen Gui to help a little because she was busy cooking other dishes. Sure enough, Chen Gui was still so unreliable. At the dinner table, Ouyang Yanyan has been completely petrified. Are you okay? Ouyang Yanyan looked at Niu Junda blankly. Niu Junda was confused. No, what can I do? By the way, I was sending a message to my girlfriend just now, and I didn't hear what you were saying. What did you just say? Can you say it again? Ouyang Yanyan's face was pale and her lips moved. Seeing the shape of her mouth, she should be greeting Niu Junda. She found that she seemed to be really talking nonsense to the air. At the same time, I don't bother to pay attention to Niu Junda. You love it to death. However, 1 minute, 5 minutes. As time passed slowly, Niu Junda had nothing to do, instead he almost ate up the few dishes in front of him. Ouyang Yanyan frowned. It shouldn't be, you logically say it's completely cold now. Puff. Niu Junda spouted a mouthful of the dish and looked at Ouyang Yanyan in disbelief. This beauty, you and I have no grudges in the past, and in the past, even if you were my boss's friend, there is no need to curse me like this. As soon as Ouyang Yanyan wanted to speak, she realized that several eyes were looking at herself. The look in Yang Qianqun's eager eyes made people feel distressed even more. Ouyang big sister, you see, he has been fine for so long, and the food must be safe. Just let me have a bite. Yang Qianqun, who used to be cold and cold, completely broke the defense when facing food. Ahem, in my opinion, this meal must be no problem, and it will be cold if you don't eat it. Sun Shoheng gave a dry cough. However, Ouyang Yanyan still did not respond, as if she did not want to let a few people move their chopsticks. Yang Qianqun couldn't bear it. Regardless of the huge risk of being cleaned up, he picked up the chopsticks and stuffed a piece of fish into his mouth. The mouth is silky, smooth and tender, and the lips and teeth are fragrant. Tasty. With a sigh, Yang Qianqun increased the speed of eating. Hey, you girl, save me some. Sun Shoheng was anxious and began to move his chopsticks regardless of his image, while Song Tiandong had silently put a lot of dishes into his bowl. Watching this scene, Ouyang Yanyan's mouth was almost crooked. HMPH, you can eat if you are not afraid of death, anyway, I won't move. But no one paid attention to Ouyang Yanyan, everyone's attention was put on the food. Behind the counter, Qinming silently watched several people eating wildly, and at the same time, Sun Shoheng seemed to be eating too much, so he added a few more dishes. One bowl of sauerkraut fish is 15 credits, and the second bowl is doubled. Well, that should be fine. After calculating the accounts, Qin Ming sat in a chair and kept thinking about how to deal with these guys. Guarding the bureau is indeed a bit troublesome. You say you don't reveal your strength, you are being harassed like this every day. Expose your strength, not to mention, but he will be called to help with all the trivial things. It is foreseeable that no matter what the situation is, the future will be dark. Here, at the dinner table, Yang Qianqin has already started teasing Ouyang Yanyan with sauerkraut fish. Ouyang big sister, take a bite, it's delicious. Roll. Ouyang Yanyan glared at Yang Qianqin, she would never be confused. Yang Qianqin didn't give up, but instead lied to her body, taking advantage of Ouyang Yanyan's carelessness and violently thrusting chopsticks into her mouth. With the effort of Ouyang Yanyan opening her mouth, the pickled cabbage fish has been imported. After feeling the explosion of taste buds, she suddenly opened her eyes and chewed twice even more subconsciously. But soon she reacted. Bah, Yang Qianqin, are you going to die? Yang Qianqin pouted and didn't answer. Anyway, the goal had been achieved, and she was waiting for the follow-up. After that, Ouyang Yanyan was no longer harassed, but is this really the case? Although Ouyang Yanyan was sitting in her position, she kept thinking about the fish fillets that she had put in her mouth before. The taste was perfect. The more she thought about it, the more she couldn't bear it, and she kept swallowing saliva. Greedy. It seems, really nothing. They have eaten a lot better, so far there is no problem. And that sauerkraut fish is really delicious. I'll just take one bite is fine. No, Ouyang Yanyan, how can you do this? Just now, you. Gently, Ouyang Yanyan picked up the chopsticks and put a piece of fish into her mouth in a thunderous manner. It is delicious on earth. Subconsciously, after taking a bite, she continued to take another bite. But soon she found that Yang Qianqin and others were looking at her, and her complexion suddenly turned red. After holding back for a long time, he smiled embarrassedly. Haha, it smells so good. However, the red color on his face really made people unable to help, and Yang Qianqin smiled directly, which immediately caused Ouyang Yanyan to stare. No way, I ate it all. So Ouyang Yanyan let go of herself. After a long time, a dozen empty plates were placed on the dinner table, and Huo Qingqing leaned on the counter with a shocked expression on his face. Are these people pigs? Pigs don't bring them and they can eat like this. Qin Ming walked to the dining table. They were already the last guests in the restaurant. 18 dishes, a total of 333 credits. Look at Lao Niu's face, I will give you a discount, 300 credits. Niu Junda was agitated. Sure enough, Lao Qin hadn't forgotten him. Ouyang Yanyan's eyes widened. You are crazy, so you can order 300 credits for such a dish. If you feel unacceptable, then the original price is good. Qin Ming's expression was indifferent, and there seemed to be some impatience in his eyes. As an emperor-level master, Ouyang Yanyan immediately caught this point, frowning immediately. It seems that Qin Ming is very hostile to them. Suddenly Ouyang Yanyan had two guesses in her heart. Either Qin Ming was really controlled by the demon king Huo Qingqing with a special method, or Qin Ming himself also had a secret that he didn't want the Guardian Bureau to know. In contrast, Ouyang Yanyan believes in the former more. Boss, the cook in your shop does not seem to be human, right? Ouyang Yanyan spoke slowly, raising her eyebrows to look at Qin Ming. Such sharp words caused the atmosphere around the dining table to change instantly, and Yang Qianqin and others sat upright. Qin Ming nodded secretly in his heart, as expected. However, he was not sitting behind the counter for nothing, he had already figured out a countermeasure. She has changed her wickedness to righteousness. Qin Ming said slowly. Oh, do you think I am a pig, so cheating? Ouyang Yanyan snorted and stood up, constantly moving her wrists, and at the same time looked at Huo Qingqing on the edge of the counter. I know your origins, but don't think you can do nothing if you get into the crowd. If you recruit your conspiracy now, I can keep your whole body. These words cannot be said to be not domineering. However, Huo Qingqing scoffed at this. It's up to you to cultivate for more than 10 years. After Huo Qingqing finished speaking, he had already begun to figure out whether he should get rid of these people tonight. This way you won't be disturbed again. Although she had been thinking about escaping from Qinming before, and she had really implemented that plan. As a result, she found it was of no use at all. Although his strength recovered about half, he still couldn't break the shackles in his soul. Even the stronger she was, the more she felt terrified at the invisible shackles, and thus became afraid of Qinming's methods. So now Huo Qingqing no longer has that idea. And following Qinming is not without benefits, at least her cultivation speed is faster, I don't know how much. Isn't it because of Ascension's own strength to dominate? How good the day is now, cooking every day, the strength can rise steadily, and there is no need to fight for life. That's why Huo Qingqing is unwilling to let those guys disturb her comfortable life. Of course, more people are still unwilling to let them bother Qinming. After getting along for a while, she found that Qinming was becoming more and more unfathomable. It seems that Qinming is very easygoing, but in fact, as long as he is upset, the consequences will be quite serious. Bai Yingwu was the best example before. Just when Huo Qingqing was thinking about it, she was taken aback, because she found that her aura continued to rise, and finally reached a terrifying point. This is a situation that she could not achieve in a complete victory before. For a time, Huo Qingqing was dumbfounded. What made her even more confounded was that this force was not hers at all, and she could not control it yet. As a result, Ouyang Yanyan, who was getting angry and ready to speak, was taken aback. Yang Qianqin and others trembled even more. The terrifying coercion emanating from Huo Qingqing directly frightened everyone. Suddenly, Ouyang Yanyan looked at Huo Qingqing's eyes full of horror. She is so strong, but Huo Qingqing was dumbfounded. This is not her power at all. Niu Junda was the only one on the court who did not feel the pressure, still playing with the light brain on his wrist with excitement, without seeing everyone's reaction at all. I advise you not to mess around. Ouyang Yanyan looked at Huo Qingqing coldly. If you dare to do it, you will die. Huo Qingqing was joking, and no matter what the situation was, he immediately snorted. The way you are talking big, you are really cute. You, what am I? This king is standing here now, do you dare to come forward? Huo Qingqing was full of sarcasm. On the other hand, Ouyang Yanyan, her face flushed like pig liver, she really didn't dare to go forward. That is the fear from the soul. Just exuding a breath, she knew that Huo Qingqing was not easy to mess with, and she didn't have any ability to fight against it. For a while, he can only grit his teeth in anger. Hee, in my opinion, it is better for us to go back. Sun Shouhang smiled embarrassedly. He is usually not afraid of anything, but now he is really afraid. It's really going to die. HMPH, let me spare you for the time being. If I find any clues, even if the power of the entire China is assembled, I will kill you. With a cold snort, Ouyang Yanyan Huo Ran got up and walked straight outside. The coercion was so horrible, her back was soaked with cold sweat. Seeing Ouyang Yanyan going out, Sun Shouhang and others hurriedly followed. The strongest combat power was gone. Why did they stay? Waiting to die. Until now, they really realized how strong this woman Huo Qingqing is. That wasn't something that the East Sea City Guardian Bureau could deal with, even the Emperor-level Master Ouyang Yanyan had to avoid her edge for the time being. Why did you leave suddenly? Niu Junda looked up blankly, but the backs of several people had disappeared into the night, and even brought Niu Junda out to ask about the situation. Qinming stopped ahead with a stride. Lao Niu, check out before leaving. Qinming smiled. The corners of Niu Junda's eyes twitched. Good guy, feelings came here to cheat and drink. Niu Junda felt bitter. Blue thin, shiitake mushrooms. In the end, he paid 300 credits bitterly, and then left the hotel with grief and anger. It's all a bunch of bad guys. After they left, the strength in Huo Qingqing's body quickly dissipated, and finally she became the strength before. Qinming sat at the back of the counter casually, silently feeling sorry for Huo Qingqing for a second. That's right, Qinming forcibly clasped Huo Qingqing's head with that illegitimate pot just now. He secretly introduced the power into Huo Qingqing's body, and directed and acted in this scene. The effect was not bad, and Yang Qianqin was finally taken away. As for what will happen next, it has nothing to do with him. Everyone's attention must be on Huo Qingqing. Huo Qingqing had a dumbfounded face, standing still in the same place, unable to understand, finally glanced at Qinming subconsciously, and then moved his gaze at a rapid speed. I probably understand something. Hey, just help the adults carry a scapegoat, what's this? Huo Qingqing murmured in his heart, and at the same time, it thoroughly confirmed the thoughts in his mind before that Qinming was always unwilling to reveal his strength. Not knowing why for a while, Huo Qingqing felt a sense of mission rising in his heart. It's her honor to be able to take the blame for the boss. Early the next morning, Qinming was sitting behind the counter publishing news. DIP, system upgrade completed in advance. Release of the second stage mission. Go to the origin of the beast wave to check in and check in. Task completion reward. In view of the completion of the 2.0 version upgrade of the system, the host will be rewarded for awakening the venerable guardian spirit, Xuanyuan sword. Boom. Qinming couldn't help but patted the table directly, his eyes filled with excitement. Sure enough, there is a guardian spirit stronger than the gods. At this time, Qinming, where was the way he was pitted before? My heart is constantly praising the system. Sure enough, the system won't cheat me. If the system would come out to beat people, it would definitely beat Qinming severely. I'll leave it to you two in the shop. Qinming put down these words and walked out of the store, leaving Chen Gui and Huo Qingqing looking at each other. Shrugging his shoulders, Huo Qingqing was about to get into the back kitchen, but suddenly he was taken aback. Shoo shoo, that long missing pit cargo actually contacted her proactively at this time. In less than 10 minutes, a woman in cool clothing walked into the store. Sister, are you so miserable now that you actually went to the restaurant to work for someone? Huo Shusho opened her mouth and looked at Huo Qingqing in disbelief. Huo Qingqing smiled slightly, and lightning shot and grabbed the opponent's ear. You who killed this god have the face to say, you actually ran away at that time. If you don't give me a proper reason. Hey, don't blame me for clearing the door today and killing my relatives righteously. Huo Shusho's face was immediately embarrassed, and then she squeezed her hands and begged for mercy. Sister, I really didn't do it on purpose, it happened for a reason. 10 minutes later, the restaurant is behind the kitchen. Huo Shusho watched with murderous eyes and finished the situation at the time. It turned out that when Huo Shusho was attracting the firepower of Sun Shoheng and others, her strength suddenly dropped, and she didn't know why. At that time, she almost scared her to death. With the cultivation base at that time, if it continues to be dragged on, she will inevitably be left there forever. There is no way Huo Shusho can only run desperately. Afterwards, I found a safe place with no one to cultivate for more than an hour, and the cultivation base came back. At this time Huo Shusho remembered that her own sister seemed to be still in the guarding bureau and hurriedly wanted to contact, but at that time Hu Qingqing was being chased and didn't notice at all. Then he was caught by Qinming and became a cook. As for Huo Shusho, this guy is so heartless and accustomed to it, he can't get in touch with Huo Qingqing and ran away by himself. Wandered around Donghai City and found a fun place. Sister, let me tell you a great place, where spiritual qi is abundant, and we only need to go there for 2 months to restore the strength of the heyday. Huo Shusho blinked, thinking that after saying this good place, Huo Qingqing would choose to forgive her. However, Huo Qingqing smiled softly. Suddenly, Huo Shusho knew that something was wrong, so she stepped back subconsciously. But Huo Qingqing was very fast, and Huo Shusho didn't even react. He was grabbed by his wrist, and then rubbed against the ground. Comfortable. Afterwards, Huo Qingqing clapped his hands, refreshed. Huo Shusho sat on the ground with a dazed face. Who am I? Where am I? How did Huo Qingqing's strength recover so quickly? Sister, what good food have you eaten? How can your strength recover so quickly? Huo Shusho said with a grimace. Huo Qingqing sneered. Don't talk about this, let me ask you, how rich is spiritual qi in the place you found? Probably half the level of a mortal cave we were back then. This is already the strongest spiritual qi place around Donghai City. Huo Shusho hurriedly said. Huo Qingqing sneered and shook his head. You can feel it carefully now. What? Huo Shusho was taken aback, and then the expression on her face began to become shocked. She felt that the spiritual qi in this hotel seemed to be extremely horrible, just assimilated it, and she could restore her strength without spending time on refining and refining. This. Huo Shusho's mouth grew wide, her face full of disbelief. Sister, what's the situation? Ha, do you think it's no good that I will be a cook here? Huo Qingqing sneered. To tell you the truth, this place is the residence of a big man. It is because of that big man, you, big sis, I can recover so quickly. In less than a month, I will be able to return to peak strength, and even continue to break through. Huo Shusho was completely shocked when she heard this. Seeing his little sister's expression, Huo Qingqing felt refreshed in her heart. Now, she was determined to follow Qin Ming all the time, which was much faster than the ascension plundering soul strength outside. More importantly, it's easy here. Sister, what a big man, tell me about it. You can't imagine this big man who is strong, but the adult is not here at the moment. When he comes back, you can consider following his sister. Huo Qingqing said, and then the two sisters whispered about Qin Ming in the back kitchen. At this time, Qin Ming was walking in the forest outside the city. The system only told him to sign in at the starting point of the beast wave, and did not indicate where it was. Fortunately, this time the beast wave had a great impact. All news in East Sea City was the beast wave, and the Guardian Bureau had initially determined the place of origin. It's in the deep forest to the west. Hey, how do you feel that something good is about to happen? Qin Ming suddenly had a hunch in his heart, and he didn't know what was going on, but he was in a good mood. Qin Ming slapped an evil spirit about to attack him to death. Hiss, I haven't seen it before with a breath. Qin Ming squinted his eyes, and a slightly powerful breath appeared in his perception. If the breath intensity of the ordinary evil spirit is 1, then the strength of this breath is 10, which is already very powerful, and it feels more vigorous than Huo Qingqing's. Not only that, he had never felt such a breath. It's interesting, let's take a look. This is the first time Qin Ming has walked out of Donghai City and wandered in the forest outside. He has never been out before. Naturally, Qin Ming can't just punch a card. In the depths of the dense forest, a burly figure was tearing a 5-meter-long, 3-meter-high tiger in half with bare hands. Then, he bit on the bloody raw meat. It's not a way to continue like this, just relying on the blood of these low-level beasts, the recovery of strength is too slow. The burly man snorted coldly. Wait for hundreds of years to seal me again. If you let me catch you, you will definitely have cramps. The man took a bite of raw meat and cursed, obviously resenting the person who sealed him here. Why hasn't Beimao returned? But in half a minute, the entire tiger was eaten up, and there was no bones left behind. Click. At this time, the sound of dry branches breaking, the man turned his head in horror, and saw a lazy young man leaning on the tree. Hey, I thought how strong he was. It turned out to be just a savage who drank blood. Qin Ming couldn't help but feel sorry. When the burly man heard this, his anger went up to the sky. Human, you really are looking for death. His voice was very strong, and the burly man stood up abruptly in the next second, his muscles bulging like steel bars. If ordinary people saw it, they would be scared to death by this look. It's been a long time since I tasted human beings. Today, I will take you as an appetizer. The burly man gave a cold snort and stomped his feet, rushing towards Qin Ming like a black lightning. The big casserole fist rounded and slammed into Qin Ming's face. With such a punch, he was afraid that it could knock out half of the mountain. The burly man seemed to see Qin Ming being shattered by a punch. However, the next second, the man was dumbfounded. I saw Qin Ming stretch out his hand lightly, just right to catch his fist. Apart from this, there is nothing else. Those terrifying powers and powerful auras seemed to have disappeared out of thin air at this time. How did you do it? The burly man shouted subconsciously. With this punch, he used 70% of his power, and he was the Tiger Demon King, and his physical power was already powerful and terrifying. This punch in the ordinary Demon King is neither dead nor useless. Is this guy in front of him a human? Oh, Qin Ming raised his eyebrows. Want to learn? NS. Master yours. The burly man only felt that he had been insulted. He gritted his teeth and snarled and raised his fist again. This time, it was full force. Wow, die for me. With a punch, Qin Ming caught it again. Then, there is no more. The burly man only felt his own fist hit on a huge hard super alloy steel plate. Compared to him, Qin Ming was very weak, motionless, even the strands of hair were not blown up. Withdrawing his fist, the burly man stared at his own hands in a daze. The script didn't seem to be written like this. Shouldn't it be that you smashed this fragile human into pieces with one fist? Qin Ming looked indifferent, and even took out a cigarette from his pocket to light it on himself. Well, so you are so weak, what am I doing over wasting this time? Qin Ming shook his head and sighed. Who are you? The burly man looked at Qin Ming incredulously, not to mention that he was now, even if he had never seen such a strong person before. Before the seal, his strength could be called the top batch. It's just the owner of a restaurant. Hey, by the way, do you want to mess with me? As if thinking of something, Qin Ming looked at this man with bright eyes. He is burly and powerful, and is very suitable for preparing dishes. Just some time ago, Chen Gui always complained that it was too hard to prepare food. It was difficult for him to prepare food for a restaurant by himself. Anyway, there is already a demon king in the store, Qin Ming thought to himself. Simply, this restaurant will be turned into a gathering place for non-human beings. With the contract, he is not afraid of these guys doing things. At the moment, Qin Ming's eyes on the strong man changed. I don't know why, but the burly man felt a little panicked by Qin Ming's watch. That look, how do you say, a bit like a trafficker. HMPH, even if you are better than me, you want me to subdue to others and dream. The burly man snorted coldly, his eyes full of jealousy when he looked at Qin Ming. In response, Qin Ming sighed. Well, after all, I am not a boss who is difficult for a strong man. I still respect other people's opinions. Qin Ming said calmly, looking at the strong man again, his eyes had become indifferent. Then let's talk about punishing evil, promoting good, and eradicating evil. What? The brawny man was taken aback for a moment, and then his two pupils shrank instantly. I saw a fist in front of him gradually enlarged, but in an instant, it slammed into his head. Boom! The fist strength was terrifying, and directly smashed the brawny man's head to pieces. The idea before dying is very simple, this is too straightforward, you should also discuss it somehow. If he knew what the result would be after rejection, he would definitely not reject Qin Ming's kindness before. After doing all this, Qin Ming wiped the dust off his sleeves. Sure enough, good employees still depend on whether they are willing, but unfortunately this body is stubborn. Qin Ming calmly shook his head. Afterwards, he continued to move forward with a cigarette in his mouth. Not far away, a figure was stunned in place, both eyes were hollow. No, go, you must go quickly. Niang Exapi, this East China Sea city is not for a demon. The young man witnessed the whole process with his own eyes. Will he be killed just because he doesn't want to mess with the other party? How to play this? At the moment, a bunch of white-haired young men dropped the corpse of the prey in their hands, turned their heads and ran. The speed is so fast that he disappears into the dense forest in the blink of an eye. In the place where the animal tide erupted, an investigation team composed of more than 10 people was carefully inspecting the surrounding conditions. There was silence around here, and they had never encountered a beast or even an evil spirit along the way. Not only that, there is no trace of spiritual qi around. This is like a vacuum zone. Strange, why is there no spiritual qi here? Ouyang Yanyan looked around in surprise, frowning. She has never encountered such a change before, and now spiritual qi is resurrected, and spiritual qi is found all over the world. Even if some places are very remote, it is just that spiritual qi is thin, not without it. Just as she was thinking about the reason, an excited voice came. Captain, found a hole in the ground. Ouyang Yanyan immediately rushed in the direction of the sound, and saw Niu Junda standing by the entrance of a cave. Seeing Ouyang Yanyan, Niu Junda scratched his head in embarrassment. He didn't know the origin of Ouyang Yanyan's identity yesterday. After knowing the identity of the other party this morning, the scene was so embarrassing and embarrassing. There seems to be something below, shall we go down and take a look? Niu Junda said. Of course I have to go down and see. Ouyang Yanyan said, jumping out of the hole first. Niu Junda did not hesitate at all, and followed closely behind. After the group entered the cave, they took out the light source they were carrying, and Niu Junda walked forward calmly. Originally, Niu Junda was not qualified to participate in tasks like this, but because East Sea City now has a top combat power, Sun Shouheng intends to let some personnel who are ready to focus on training have a long experience in the past. Look, there are a group of statues ahead. Not long after, Niu Junda at the front suddenly spoke. Ouyang Yanyan followed and saw a dozen statues. These statues are gray and black in color, and there is no visible material, and they seem to have been here for many years. Except for the statue of a big dog, all the other statues have dense cracks. Relatively speaking, there are a lot less cracks on the statue of the big dog. Ouyang Yanyan checked carefully and found no problems, so she directed at the humanity who followed behind her. See if I can get some samples back. I have never seen the materials of these statues. Be careful around, this place is weird, maybe dangerous. Behind his body, a person came forward with gloves, preparing to get a sample of debris and take it back. At this moment, the sound of something cracking came. Click, click, everyone shuddered in fright and backed away, and saw the cracks on the big dog statue begin to increase, and finally the statue became exactly the same as the previous ones. Puff, who farted? Niu Junda shouted subconsciously. No one answered yet, and a puff of black smoke came out of the big dog statue. Ahahaha, Lord Go has finally come out. Fortunately, there is enough spiritual chi here. After washing your hands, you can just break the seal. Excited and frantic laughter sounded in the cave space. The black smoke condenses into the outline of a big dog in the air, and finally the outline turns into a solid body. A large yellow dog with a length of 5 or 6 meters and a height of at least 2 meters appeared in the sight of everyone. At the moment this big yellow dog appeared, Ouyang Yanyan frowned, and a sense of danger of heart palpitations hit her face. At the same time, the big yellow dog looked at everyone. I saw it sticking out its tongue and licking the corner of its mouth, with a humanized look of excitement on its face. You tell me, this luck can't stop it. As soon as I came out, there were people eating meat, and the dog master must be the happiest dog. Humans, it is your honor to be an appetizer for Lord Dog. The big yellow dog smiled again and again, and his body exuded a fierce breath. Just these breaths made everyone's legs soft, and Niu Junda, who was in the forefront, swung straight on both legs. Ouyang Yanyan frowned, and at the same time exuded the terrifying aura of the emperor. The collision between the two breaths in the air in an instant eased a little. Niu Junda and other insufficient guardians took advantage of this opportunity to hide behind Ouyang Yanyan. Hey, you are a pretty good woman. The big yellow dog said with interest. Ouyang Yanyan frowned. A talking beast, I have never seen it before. Presumptuously, your dog master is the demon king. Isn't it comparable to those uncivilized, inferior and fierce beasts? The big yellow dog shouted directly, obviously because Ouyang Yanyan called it a fierce beast. HMPH, whether you are the demon king or the fierce beast, it seems that you are the cause of this beast wave. Ouyang Yanyan snorted and did not continue to talk nonsense, but rushed directly to the big yellow dog. Since you are presumptuous with your dog, the first one will eat you. The big yellow dog sneered, opened his blood basin and bit at Ouyang Yanyan's throat. Ouyang Yanyan's figure suddenly disappeared, and when she reappeared, she actually came under the dog's head. She saw the right time and hit the big yellow dog's chin with a fist. As an emperor-level powerhouse, he is strong enough to open mountains and rivers. With the power of this punch, Ouyang Yanyan shot with all her strength, enough to beat the fierce beast under the same realm to half-death. Between the lightning and flint, his fist hit the big yellow dog's chin severely. Boom! I saw the big yellow dog's head suddenly lifted, because the punch was too powerful, and it hit the dog in a circle in the air. Wow! The big yellow dog screamed and suddenly understood one thing. With its current strength, it is not Ouyang Yanyan's opponent. Just after getting out of the seal, he is so weak that he can't beat a woman. The big yellow dog bared his teeth, and a fierce light appeared in his eyes. Seeing this scene, Ouyang Yanyan was also very vigilant, mobilizing all her strength to prepare for the next attack from the big yellow dog. However, whoosh! The big yellow dog instantly turned into a yellow phantom, bypassing the crowd, and rushed out of the hole in less than a second. Suddenly Ouyang Yanyan was dumbfounded. This, just ran away. What the hell, I ran away directly, it's a waste of my mother's feelings. Ouyang Yan gritted her teeth, but did not chase her out. The situation here is unknown. Apart from her, there is not even a god of war level existence here. If she chases out, there will be other dangers in the cave, and the gains outweigh the losses. Although the big yellow dog was not put to death, Ouyang Yanyan got a key clue. Now there are fierce beasts that can talk about people, and this time the wave of beasts is probably caused by the other party. Continue to check the situation, this time everyone is careful, I will open the way. Ouyang Yanyan ignored the big yellow dog who had escaped, and continued to lead people to the depths of the cave to check the situation. After the big yellow dog escaped, he rushed 3 kilometers in a flash. It's dangerous, this woman is so strong, I can't catch a punch. The big yellow dog was sticking his tongue out, with a look of disdain on his face. Ha, if it wasn't for the dog master, I was less than 1/10,000th of my strength before, wouldn't you be as simple as pinching an ant? With that said, the big yellow dog turned in the opposite direction and walked slowly with an extremely awkward pace. Finally broke the seal, life in the seal is not easy. Well, let's see what happened to the sacred stone first. I don't know where the guys who escaped before are now. In less than 3 minutes, the big yellow dog came to a nearby hill and happened to run into a frustrated white hare with a desperate face. Ha, Xiao Beimao, don't you say hello to Master Dog? The big yellow dog raised its eyebrows and said, it saw that the other party was also a demon king who had already transformed. It can transform itself, but big yellow dogs are more accustomed to the feeling of being a dog. Things like humans, walking on 2 legs, or really twisted. Bai Mao's mind was full of thoughts of fleeing East Sea City, and he ignored the big yellow dog at all. The big yellow dog saw that the white hare hadn't moved, and a touch of discomfort appeared on his face. It was just taken up by a woman, and now this white hare is ignoring herself, it can't bear it. Dare to ignore your dog, die for me. The big yellow dog turned into a flash of yellow lightning and rushed forward. But the big yellow dog has thick skin and thick flesh, and this slap did not cause much harm. Then one person and one dog started fighting. However, the 2 guys are similar in strength, and it is difficult to separate them for a while, and the fight is really troublesome, and Beimao directly called for a stop. Xiao Beimao, seeing that you are good at strength, why don't you follow the dog? The big yellow dog lay on the ground, sticking his tongue out. Beimao sat aside, his face full of loveless expression. If you put it between 10 minutes, I can think about letting you know what cruelty is. But now, I just want to leave this ghost place quickly. On the other side, Qinming was walking in the dense forest like shopping. Suddenly, the voice of the system came. Ding, congratulations to the host for successfully signing in and punching in. Awakened God-level Guardian Spirit, Jin Gang Divine Stone. Congratulations to the host for completing the 2nd stage mission and obtaining a 2nd stage gift package. The host opens the gift package and obtains a venerable level Guardian Spirit, Xuanyuan Sword. The strength in Qin Ming's body increased exponentially, and at this time he already had an illusion. With this punch, he was afraid that he would be able to tear the sky open. At this time, in the Guardian Spirit space in his body, there were already 2 more islands on the Sea of Underworld. On the islands are a huge cyan stone and a long sword that emits red light. The long sword is naturally a venerable class Guardian Spirit, Xuanyuan Sword. Qin Ming's greatest feeling for venerable class Guardian Spirits is that they are strong. Too strong. According to his estimation, the strength of a venerable class Guardian Spirit is at least as strong as 10 Beiming Kunpeng. And the Jin Gang God Stone that just signed into awakening is a bit interesting. Supernatural powers. Jin Gang. This supernatural power can make the bodyguard spirit power cover itself, reaching an outrageously hard and tough level. Qin Ming wanted to test how strong his newly acquired supernatural power was. Ever since, he raised his hand. Boom, puff, so fierce. Qin Ming directly spit out a mouthful of blood, he slapped himself on his chest, and slapped himself on his knees. At this moment, he knelt on one knee, covering his chest with one hand and supporting the ground with the other. There was dizziness in his head. He still underestimated his current strength, just now that slap was only 30% of the strength, and as a result, he abruptly smashed his own bodyguard and vomited blood. What is this wave? I hit myself. After sitting on the ground for a long time, Qin Ming recovered. In fact, this injury is nothing to him, he can recover from any spirit power shock, but his inner loneliness cannot be relieved. Invincible, really lonely. When Qinming got up and patted the dust on his body, Qinming was about to go back. This time he came out without meaning. I am a god stone. Suddenly, a howl of grief and anger came from a distance. By the side of a towering tree, the big yellow dog hurriedly around, and its sacred stone was gone. Ah, there were still censers before, how come they are gone? The big yellow dog grabbed his own ears with two paws, his eyes were scarlet in despair. It's just a broken stone, so sad. Came a lazy voice. It was only 300 rounds of one person, one dog, and I was very tired. When I was resting, I chatted a few words and found that they all had appetites for each other. After that, Beiming said that there was a big boss in East Sea City who could not be offended, and there was no room for development, otherwise it would be death. One person and one dog hit it off, ready to go elsewhere. Before leaving, the big yellow dog said that he had a treasure to take away, so there was almost the scene now. The big yellow dog turned his head and looked at the white hair. You know what a shit, the godstone is my lifeblood. Beiming's eyes stared, and his gaze constantly scanned a certain position of the big yellow dog. What do you look at? It's not this. The big yellow dog jumped angrily. Its divine mind continued to expand, and it wanted to find out who stole the own divine stone, and it really made it discover a human being. Not only that, this human being is still walking towards it. Humans, it must be that human who stole Lord Dog's baby. The big yellow dog barked his teeth, his muscles violent. At this moment, Qinming had already come to the front. Oh, such a big dog. Qinming's eyes lit up when he saw the big yellow dog. He had never seen such a big dog before. Boy, did you steal my sacred stone? The big yellow dog stared at Qinming fiercely, almost jumping out of his teeth. You can talk, Qinming exclaimed. Asshole, return the things to me. The big yellow dog is already Shileji. In its opinion, Qinming must have stolen the god stone. What makes it intolerable the most is that this guy dared to come back after stealing things. Didn't he be ashamed of Heavenly Dog King to put in one's eyes? The big yellow dog swooped and fell into the air to eat shit. Why are you catching my tail? The big yellow dog Bricks roared. At this time, Beiming was completely petrified, and his eyes looking at Qinming were full of fear. Why did you bump into it again? It's over, it's really over this time. The big yellow dog was full of anger. You white hair, you still want to make friends with you, the dog is stolen, and you stop me. He's the big guy I'm talking about. For a while, the atmosphere was awkward. The big yellow dog looked at Qinming carefully. Humans, without the breath of spirit power, are equal to delicious in his eyes. It's just nonsense. I think you are a silly cultivation shoe. You are just a mortal without spirit power. You are actually scared like this. The big yellow dog sneered and sneered, spirit power shook, and directly shook the white hand on the tail. Then it turned to look at Qinming, but was taken aback. I saw that Qinming didn't know when he appeared in front of his nose, and he looked at each other like this. This is the first time I have heard of the talking beast. Qinming raised his brows slightly. Although his strength is not very good, it is barely enough. Come on, hit me. Big yellow dog, Beiming. What are you doing in a daze? Hit me. Qinming shouted again. The big yellow dog was sure that he had not heard it wrong this time, and his face was dumbfounded. Hi, you ant, dare not to put the dog in one's eyes. The big yellow dog yelled, and the dog's paw lifted up and slapped Qinming under it violently. In its opinion, Qinming will definitely become a lump of flesh when this claw goes down. Do not. Beiming reacted and shouted immediately, but it was too late and the paw had already slapped Qinming's chest. The big yellow dog's eyes almost popped out. Because Qinming was okay. Not only did he stand on the spot intact, his dog's claws seemed to hit a Vajra stone. Wow, the big yellow dog screamed. It hurts too much. Have you not eaten? Use some strength. Qinming shouted. Dare to ridicule your dog, die for me. The big yellow dog was furious, and when he was angry, he directly used his full strength. A black air wrapped the dog's paws and patted Qinming's chest again. Subsequently, the big yellow dog was dumbfounded again. Impossible, how could you not die? Qinming nodded indifferently. After this test, he could feel that the magical powers of the Jin Gang Divine Stone were indeed good. Then he knew it in his heart. If anyone can break through his body protection chi, then it shows that the strength is strong and can fight a game. At this time, the big yellow dog was already messed up in the wind. At the end of the day, hit a wall 3 times in a row. For a while, it looked at its own dog's paw, and was a little suspicious of the dog's birth. Is it really that weak? Why can't even shoot a human without cultivation base? Beside it, the white hair had already begun to tremble all over. After seeing Qin Ming's 2 brutal and unreasonable scenes, his psychological shadow reached a terrifying point. At this moment Qin Ming was standing in front of him. He didn't even have the courage to escape. For fear of turning around and running away, he slapped him with a slap. Bai Mao asked himself, even with his strength in his heyday, he couldn't hold Qin Ming's slap in the face. Is it going to start? Is the decision of fate going to start? Bai Mao stared at Qin Ming stubbornly. If Qin Ming asked if he should follow him in the next step, how would he answer? In that case, let's go straight to the topic. Coming. Bai Mao's heart was raised in his throat, and one of them knelt without restraint. I am willing to follow the boss, and beg the boss not to kill me. The big yellow dog was full of question marks again, and it looked at Bai Mao's eyes, just like a mentally retarded one. As far as it's impossible, you can't beat it, won't you run away? Hee, let's talk if you can escape. The white fur kneeling on the ground smiled and didn't smile. Cut. The big yellow dog sneered, turned around and wanted to escape, but at that moment, his hair exploded, and a chill came straight into his mind from the soles of his feet. Gudong. It swallowed a mouthful of water, then turned and looked at Qin Ming with horror. Nothing else, because Qin Ming released some own aura. The moment when he was locked in by that coercion, the big yellow dog knew that it couldn't run away. It's so strong. Qin Ming ignored the big yellow dog, but looked at White Mao. Are you sure you want to follow me? I'm a reasonable person and don't do things that force others. If you don't want to follow me, it doesn't matter. Bai Mao's body is about to shake into a massage machine. Just you, still reasonable. Twice, exactly twice, watching you with your own eyes and slapped others to death if you didn't agree with each other, would you tell me that you were reasonable? This pig can climb the tree. Look at what you said. It's a blessing for me to follow you for 8 lifetimes. How could I be unwilling? Said this, Bai Mao felt a little pain in his own heart. But before life and death, heartache is a fart. Qin Ming was also quite moved by the fact that Bai Mao was so acquainted. It seems that I have a lot of personality charm. As he spoke, 2 chapters of parchment had appeared in his hands. The moment they saw the parchment, both the white hair and the big yellow dog trembled, and the fear that originated from the soul made them dare not move. Well, in that case, just sign it. As Qin Ming said, he looked at the big yellow dog. It happens to be missing a dog to watch the door, but to be reasonable, can your physique become smaller and become normal? Yes, it's all trivial. The big yellow dog shrank instantly and became the size of an ordinary adult dog, but that dog's face seemed very awkward. 1 person and 1 dog press their fingerprints, and the contract takes effect. The shackles of the invisible soul were instantly shrouded in their souls. At this moment, they knew in their hearts that they could never disobey Qin Ming's will. Bring a dog home, I wonder if Xiao Nianzu will be happier. Qin Ming laughed and said, well, you will be called Rhubarb in the future. Take a good look at the house, you will need your bones. Rhubarb did not say a word, but there were silent tears in his heart. Was he actually reduced to the point where he could only eat meat and bones in the future? It didn't expect it to die, just breaking the seal. Before it started to be chic, it entered the next cage. Destiny is so wonderful sometimes. On the way back, Qin Ming was in a good mood, but Rhubarb and White Mao followed closely behind. As you can see from the shit-eating expressions on their faces, the mood is definitely not so beautiful. Glancing at each other, the 2 guys have a feeling that they are both degenerate. At this time, Ouyang Yanyan and others had already explored the cave and set off to go back. There was nothing in the cave except for a few dilapidated statues. There was also a big yellow dog threat in that place. Ouyang Yanyan was afraid that it would be dangerous to keep it, so she had to go back quickly. On the way, she saw a very strange combination ahead. 2 people and 1 dog, the back of the headed person is still very familiar. Ah, Isn't this my old Chin? Niu Junda suddenly exclaimed, causing Qin Ming to turn his head. Oh, old cow, why are you here? Qin Ming said with a smile. I still want to ask, why are you here? Ouyang Yanyan squinted her eyes and stepped forward. You, an ordinary person with no strength, dare to go out of the city to the wild. At this time, she had already seen that the person and dog beside Qin Ming were not humans, and that this dog was familiar from every way he looked. It's just going out for a walk, don't worry, nothing will happen. Qin Ming said with a smile, and glanced at the rhubarb subconsciously. When Rhubarb saw that it was this woman, he snorted in contempt and turned the dog's head directly. Ouyang Yanyan frowned, especially when Qin Ming looked at the dog. Her first reaction was that Huo Qingqing's conspiracy had begun. The two fierce beasts followed Qin Ming. In her opinion, it was naturally impossible for Qin Ming to deal with it. Obviously, there was Huo Qingqing's shadow behind it. Qin Ming must be controlled by Huo Qingqing, for sure. Devil, I knew you were not at ease. With a cold snort in her heart, Ouyang Yanyan looked at Qin Ming and said, let's do it, you keep going out, I have something to leave first. She thought she had seen Huo Qingqing's plan, and she was thinking about it, putting a long line to catch a big fish. After returning home, he immediately followed Huo Qingqing to figure out what she was going to do. Old Qin, I have a task now, so I'll go back first, and come to your store to drink at night. Niu Junda smiled at Qin Ming. The two parties parted ways again, and Ouyang Yanyan went back very quickly, while Qin Ming, on the other hand, was like a real shopping and spring outing. Back in the shop, it was almost evening. Come on, let me introduce you to everyone. This is a new employee in our store. Just call him Beimao for the time being. Qin Ming smiled at Chen Gui, and then pointed to Rhubarb. This is the dog who just got to see the door, Rhubarb. Where is the young man? Oh, she is in the back kitchen with her little sister. Qin Ming was startled, this woman still has a little sister. While they were talking, Huo Qingqing and Huo Shusho had already walked out of the back kitchen. When they saw the white hair, they immediately looked furious. Huo Shusho still wanted to speak, but Huo Qingqing suddenly covered her mouth. Huo Qingqing only saw what was going on at a glance. Obviously, this white hair was also caught by Qin Ming. By the way, you guys will get to know each other. Qin Ming smiled and said, it just so happens that there is a new employee in the store, let little sister stay with you for dinner. Ahem, boss, it's true that little sister, is here to join me, can I arrange a job for her also in the store? Huo Qingqing coughed dryly. Huo Qingqing thought it was a bad thing to follow Qin Ming before, but now that she tasted the sweetness, she directly dispelled that idea. Now even if Qin Ming drove her away, she was unwilling to leave, and even thought it was too much to let Huo Shusho come with her. Fortunately, Qin Ming readily agreed. Good thing, there is no shortage of people in the store. Qin Ming was very happy, not bad, but he didn't cultivate Huo Qingqing in vain. I will cook myself tonight. Qin Ming laughed and walked into the back kitchen on his own initiative. The three people outside looked at each other for a while, and they all understood each other's existence. White Mao, have you finally been caught? Huo Qingqing sneered and sneered. It's cool to take a few rubbish to surround me before, right? HMPH, now I'm doing things behind the boss, I'm afraid you won't make it. Beimao sneered. Really, come here, find a place where no one is going to make gestures. Come on, afraid of you and I'm a dog. 5 minutes later, Beimao limped into the store, clutching his stomach. He was full of disbelief. Huo Qingqing, how can your strength recover so quickly? Does it have anything to do with you? Huo Qingqing was refreshing, and the anger that had been besieged by Beimao and others before finally vented, and the whole body was relieved a lot. No, spiritual qi is a bit weird here. Beimao frowned. Rhubarb also raised his eyebrows and directly transmitted his voice. You have also discovered that the spiritual qi here is so pure and rich. At one time, one person and one dog felt, as if following Qin Ming was not a bad thing. Inside the East Sea City Guarding Bureau, Ouyang Yanyan frowned for a long time and dialed a call. Elder Wu, the situation here is probably like this, or send someone over again. On the other end of the call, Wu Haishan's weak voice came. It's also troublesome here, I'm afraid I can't help it. Devil race, Monster race, a lot of chaotic races that don't belong to this planet have appeared. Wu Haishan slowly said. I don't know where these guys came from, but it's okay. I have already asked an old guy to help. In the East Sea City, at least it will be half a month away. Ouyang Yanyan frowned. Is the situation so bad? I don't know if I can last until half a month later. I am currently going to keep an eye on that woman and see what plans she will have next. Wu Haishan chuckled. Dignantly, the emperor-level powerhouses of China, are they going to be stalking now? For a while, Ouyang Yanyan's face was embarrassed. God knows why that woman is so powerful, she herself is not sure that she can deal with it, not to mention that there are 2 other existences now. It's okay, there will be someone in East China Sea, and there will be no trouble. Wu Haishan said calmly. Ouyang Yanyan raised her eyebrows. The other party may not always be in East China Sea, at least I haven't found a trace so far. Don't worry, if there are any questions, support will be there as soon as possible. Wu Haishan said. By the way, in another half a month, it happens to be the Guardian Grand Tournament, and this time the National Youth Tournament is also held together. I remember Donghai City, Lao Yang's granddaughter is there. Well, she has good qualifications. Is it going to be held together this time? Where is the location? Mount Tai. Ouyang Yanyan's eyes widened. Why did you go to Mount Tai? Mount Tai is the first batch of spiritual qi recovery sites in China. Similarly, there are an astonishing number of beasts and evil spirits there. And for hundreds of years, humans have been unable to clean out the evil spirits and beasts around Mount Tai. These guys have begun to interlace nearby, and they have developed completely. Logically speaking, it should not be held there. It's a contest on the bright side. In fact, taking advantage of the old guy's help, I simply cleaned up the neighborhood. Hanging up the phone, Ouyang Yanyan slumped in a chair with a decadent face. As the youngest imperial-level powerhouse in the history of China for hundreds of years, Ouyang Yanyan was given high expectations, and she might even be the first to become a god-level existence on the bright side. But now, she can't handle a small restaurant. Thinking of this, Ouyang Yanyan was furious. Why is Huo Qingqing such a strong woman? The situation in the country is now unstable. It seems that the situation in Donghai City is critical, but in fact, there are more severe urban areas than here. There are so many emperor-level powerhouses in the headquarters of the Guardian Bureau. Except for a few people who are responsible for guarding one side, there are very few activities to support. In her opinion, the only good news may be that there is a suspected op expert in East Sea City. If the big man is really a member of East Sea City, she naturally does not need to consider the comfort here. Moreover, judging from the situation of several spiritual riots, the big boss is likely to be in the city and secretly help. Hey, I'll forget it. With a decadent sigh, Ouyang Yanyan lay on the chair and didn't want to move. I had planned to go and watch it personally, but at this time I didn't have any ideas in this regard. Ever since, such an arduous task fell on the personnel who had been stalking all the year round. Regarding this, Yang Qianqian said that he was used to it, and he even looked forward to it in his heart. Guarding the gate of the bureau, Fan Zhengxian sorted out his own clothes, and after making sure that no one around him noticed him, he walked towards the east of the city. As the only person in the entire guarding bureau who knew the identity of Qin Ming, he believed that he had an absolute advantage. If you want to have a good relationship with the boss, now is the best time. He found that the boss cared very much about that small restaurant. He only had to go to it a few more times to get a familiar face, and he would have the opportunity to ask for advice in the future. As for the reason why he often appears there, he has already thought about it. The taste of the food here is superb, I like to eat here, right? Even if he didn't succeed in making a good relationship with the boss, it didn't matter. The spiritual qi in the boss restaurant was so pure and terrifying, but after going there once, he felt that his strength ascension was at least the painstaking practice of the previous half a year. This is also very worthwhile. Even Fan Zhengxian has applied to the headquarters and wants to be stationed in Donghai City for a long time. As for why he is so sneaky, of course it's not that he doesn't want to share good things with outsiders, it's that he doesn't dare to mess with bigwigs. Well, that's it, big guys like to be low-key, how can I let those people disrupt the cleanliness of big guys? Soon, Fan Zhengxian came to the Shenling Hotel. As soon as he walked into the store, he realized that the atmosphere was a bit wrong. At a table, two beautiful women were sitting together, their eyes fixed on the opposite young man with a pinch of white hair on his head. You can feel the sparks flowing in the air just by looking at it. Not only that, there was a dead dog lying on the ground. Seeing Fan Zhongxun coming in, Da Huang looked up and ignored it, continuing to close his eyes to absorb spiritual qi to restore his strength. The atmosphere in the restaurant was weird, and Fan Zhongxun only felt that his heart was congested, and he didn't know what to posture for a while. I'm just here for dinner. I'm a customer at all. I don't have any other thoughts. Yes, that's it. With a murmur in his heart, Fan Zhongxun showed a smile. Just after sitting down, before flipping through the menu, a figure walked in. Ah, Boss Fan, why are you here? Niu Junda's voice came from behind, and Fan Zhongxun's movements became stiff, and he hurriedly turned his head back. Hee, I've eaten here last time. I think the taste suits my appetite. I can't help but want to eat it again. Fan Zhongxun smiled indifferently. At the same time, I was secretly shocked. It's good to be prepared, otherwise, I really want to show off. Niu Junda narrowed his eyes slightly. He originally wanted to ask why he didn't call Sun Shohang and the others together, but he soon reflected. It must be Fan Zhongxun who's stingy and exploded. If someone is called, the cost will be much higher. Yes, it must be so. Suddenly, Niu Junda's affection for Fan Zhongxun plummeted. Although he himself is a stingy person, he can still bear the pain to take out his wallet at a critical moment. And think about it carefully, after Fan Zhongxun came to East Sea City, he was really stingy. Niu Junda actually asked Niu Junda to pay when I went out for dinner last time, and at other times, this stuff was settled in the canteen of the guarding bureau. Just like having never eaten in a lifetime, he desperately put the meat and vegetables in the canteen on his plate. Niu Junda has heard complaints from many people in the past few days. This time, he obviously refused to pay for a treat. Fan Zhongxun, tut. Smaller, the pattern is smaller. Having seen through Fan Zhongxun's personality, Niu Junda's favorability for Fan Zhongxun has been completely cleared for a while. He didn't take this matter to heart. Anyway, this product was only from outside and would not stay in East Sea City for a long time. For his little deputy captain, it didn't matter. Then he went forward and chatted with Qin Ming. Fan Zhongxun was not interested in the content of the two people's chat, because at this time he was thinking, what is the meaning of the expression on Niu Junda's face that I have seen through? Could it be that he has seen the purpose of own? Just when Fan Zhongxun was holding the menu and thinking about it, another figure walked in. This time, Fan Zhongxun was not very calm. Old Fan, why are you here? Yang Qianqun asked with a look of surprise. Fan Zhongxun endured the embarrassment, pretending to be just a customer. This shop tastes good, so I can't help but want to eat it again. It is still the previous excuse. In Fan Zhongxun's view, this is a very good reason, and it will not arouse suspicion by outsiders at all. In fact, no one would doubt this at all, but Yang Qianqun's eyes looking at Fan Zhongxun at this time were exactly the same as Niu Junda's eyes before. For a while, Fan Zhongxun's mind quickly spun, could it be that he was seen through again? Don't be exposed. But Yang Qianqun didn't say much, but sat opposite Fan Zhongxun. It just so happens that I also came to eat, let's get together. Fan Zhongxun knew that Yang Qianqun had a mission, and did not say much, nodded and started to order. And Yang Qianqun was also observing the strange dining table beside him. At this time, the atmosphere between Huo Qingqing and Beimao had become extremely cold, and the air seemed to freeze. If Yang Qianqun was not a master, otherwise, ordinary people would definitely turn their heads and run away. For a while, Yang Qianqun whispered in his heart. According to Ouyang Yanyan, shouldn't this white hair be Huo Qingqing's helper? At the same time, Qin Ming also discovered this. Originally, he was cooking in the back kitchen, but when Niu Junda came, he came out to rest for a while. After all, cooking is also a sacred job. If you want to do it well, you must be careful. This is very energy intensive, and proper rest is also very necessary. He glanced at the strange atmosphere of the table and frowned slightly. The electric sparks in the air seem to have become entities, and there is a feeling of needle-pointed wheat in the rice bag, so it is impossible for guests to come. At the moment, Qin Ming walked over with a gloomy face. It may be that the behavior of the two sides hacking each other to death was too focused, and did not find Qinming, who had already stepped forward, and the dead dog Rhubarb lying on the ground had faintly felt wrong. But what does this have to do with it? It is just a dead dog that silently recovers its strength. At the beginning, he was very jealous and worried about Qinming, but when he found out that the spiritual qi in the hotel was very pure and Qinming didn't intend to use it, he positioned himself as a dead dog. Snapped. Qinming stared at him for a while, then raised his hand and slapped the back of Bai Mao's head. This slap staggered the white hare's figure and almost bumped his head on the table. Such a scene immediately attracted everyone's attention. What are you three doing? If this goes on, no customer in the store will come. Qinming said in a bad mood, it seems that you are not suitable for this job. Suddenly Bai Mao only felt his hairs explode, and his whole body cleverly stood up from the chair. This is the boss warning himself. I blame this woman Huo Qingqing, how could I have forgotten the duty of a waiter if it weren't for her? Bai Mao said to himself, gave Huo Qingqing a vicious look, and hurriedly picked up a rag. Afterwards, a very busy figure kept walking around in the store, wiping tables and chairs, sweeping the floor and taking out the trash. What work to do, don't be too diligent. He knew very well that Qinming would definitely drive him away once he showed that he did not meet the abilities of a waiter, and what the consequences would be after being driven away, he knew better than anyone else. That was two full witnesses, a lesson of blood. Rhubarb lying on the ground was gloating on his face, and before he had a chance to sneer, Qinming kicked his ass. Go, don't lie here, it will affect the appetite of the guests. Do you know that? Find a place near the door to go on your stomach and be a watchdog. Your bones are indispensable. Rhubarb made a wailing sound, ran to the door after a stray smoke, then went around in circles, found a comfortable position and continued to lie down as a dead dog. Seeing this scene, Qinming nodded very pleasedly. Although there are currently no customers in the store to prove the abilities of these two new employees, judging from the current positive state, it is still very satisfying. Then Qinming looked at Huo Qingqing again. Huo Qingqing was already trembling at this time, for fear that Qinming would blame it. Forget it this time. Although I don't know what contradiction you and Bai Mao had before, but now they are all colleagues, do you want to tolerate each other? Yes, big boss, I know I was wrong, I'll cook today's dinner. Huo Qingqing hurriedly got up and walked into the back kitchen, and even Huo Shusho followed carefully. Although Qinming had been smiling, there was no aura on him, but I don't know why. Huo Shusho looked at Qinming's smile, but there was boundless fear in his heart. Back behind the counter again, the satisfied smile on Qinming's face became more apparent. You laughed a little perverted. Niu Junda raised his eyebrows. Suddenly Qinming felt that he had eaten a pile of shit and his good mood was completely ruined, and he glared at Niu Junda. You know what a shit, I am sighing, don't you feel that the store is getting more and more firepower? That's true, it seems that Lao Qin's business in your hotel will become more and more prosperous in the future, right? Niu Junda laughed. Qinming nodded indifferently. After all, this store was taken from Niu Junda for nothing, and it was just a small matter. Niu Junda squinted his eyes happily. In the past few days, the business in the shop has become more and more prosperous, but all the customers who have come to eat are lingering about the taste of the food. Although he is only a small share, he can be regarded as one of the owners of this shop. I am also looking forward to it now. Rhubarb felt that the position he chose at the door was quite good, not only did not block the door, but also very comfortable. More importantly, it found that the spiritual qi here is more refined. At the same time, it also found that the big house across the street seemed to be the source of this pure spiritual qi. The emerald green leaves on the wall were exposed, which looked delicious. Ah, why is there a dog at the door? Chapter 71. A surprised and joyful voice came. Rhubarb turned his head and saw two figures approaching. Suddenly, there was a burst of saliva at the corners of Rhubarb's mouth. These two girls have delicate skin and tender meat, and the taste in their mouths must be great. However, it is currently confined to Qinming, and because of the beginning, Rhubarb did not dare to mess around. The ghost knew what Qinming would do when he was angry, and the shackles deep in his soul made it understand that Qinming could kill him with a single thought. Resisting the thought of cannibalism in his heart, Rhubarb slowly shifted his attention, after all, it might really be unbearable to look at it, and it would be no good to do anything dangerous at that time. What Rhubarb did not expect was that the two girls ran up to him, and one of the girls boldly reached out, trying to reach out and stroke his dog's head. Suddenly the Rhubarb exploded. As the king of Heavenly Dog, he is a demon king, with hundreds of thousands of demons dispatched at will, and human beings want to eat as much as they want. A human being is a thing, dare to touch his paw on his head. Can this be tolerated? Although Qin Ming said before, let them not expose their aura and strength, and try to be normal. So Rhubarb's heart was raging, but he just grinned and gave out a low warning roar. It seemed that he was really a dog. Sure enough, it's a stray dog. Xiao Nianzhu pulled her hand back in shock. In her opinion, Rhubarb must be a stray dog, otherwise there would be no such vigilance, and this dog's hair also looks dirty, pitiful. When Rhubarb saw this scene, he also sneered in his heart. A mere human, get out of it, don't come to provoke the dog, if you don't eat you. Elder brother, Xiao Nianzhu shouted. Rhubarb even sneered again and again. What use is it for you to call your brother, and what can your brother do to the dog? Rhubarb's pair of dog eyes stared big, his face was full of disbelief, and even trembling from panic. Qin Ming's figure appeared in front of Xiao Nianzhu, and she stretched out her hand and rubbed Nianzhu's little head with affection. Brother, look at the stray dog at the door of the store. You said our yard is so big, can we raise it? Xiao Nianzhu looked at Qin Ming expectantly. Qin Ming smiled indifferently, he thought it was something. This is what your brother I adopted today, I know you like it. Qin Ming smiled. Suddenly, Xiao Nianzhu jumped up with excitement, grabbed Qin Ming's arm and kissed him on the cheek. Nianzhu has always liked small animals since she was a child. When she was living in a slum, she often encountered many stray cats and dogs. The little girl is kind-hearted, she often feeds these stray cats and dogs, and she wants to have a cat and dog that belongs to her own. It's just a pity that the two brothers and sisters couldn't even support themselves, so how could they have extra energy to raise cats and dogs? Now there is this opportunity. At this moment, Xiao Nianzhu took her body down with excitement, she just wanted to stretch out her hand to touch the rhubarb, but after thinking of something, she rushed into the back kitchen and walked out soon with a fleshy bone. Come on puppies and eat bones. Xiao Nianzhu put the meat bones not far from the rhubarb, trying to tease him to eat meat and increase his feelings. This is usually a means to deal with stray dogs. At this time, Rhubarb's body was still trembling. There is even more chaos in my mind. What did it just do? That was the little sister of this big guy, it actually wanted to eat the other party, not only that, it was scary. It's over, it's dying. Rhubarb's heart was very flustered, and his trembling body was constantly bouncing on the ground. Any individual could see that this guy was scared now. Qin Ming looked at the rhubarb condescendingly, with a smile on his face. I don't know why, Da Huang looked at the smile on Qin Ming's face, and his heart was surrounded by huge fear. Puppies are not afraid, eat meat. Xiao Nianzhu said softly. Rhubarb trembled and looked at Xiao Nianzhu. Although he didn't want to admit it, at this moment, he was just a dog. The next thing is relatively simple, open your mouth, then gently bite the front part of the fleshy bone, wait until Xiao Nianshuisong's hand before gnawing on the ground, the kind that is very fragrant. Then Xiao Nianzhu tentatively reached out to get close to the rhubarb, but the rhubarb did not respond. Then Xiao Nianzhu was bold again and slowly touched her hand towards the rhubarb's head. This time, where did Rhubarb dare to continue to bark his teeth? Sister-in-law grandma, do it quickly, do it. It really couldn't bear Qin Ming's gaze, it was scarier than any horror demon king it had seen. This was the fear in the soul. Finally, the snow-white little hand was placed on the dog's head, and the movement was cautious, very gentle, for fear that the rhubarb was uncomfortable. And Rhubarb's hanging heart finally let go, and now it knows why it was brought back, absolutely for this little ant's milk. Hurry up and play with me. Rhubarb shouted in his heart. Just 3 seconds ago, Da Huang had already determined his future survival goal in his heart, and that was to serve Xiao Nianzhu, the grandmother. As a big brother, little sister is definitely the biggest thigh. It seems that seeing Rhubarb did not respond, Xiao Nianzhu's movements began to force, and at the same time a happy smile appeared on her face. Rhubarb also cooperated very well, turning around and scratching upside down to reveal his belly, which is a point of trust for dogs. Ming nodded and let out a long sigh of relief. He was still worried that Xiao Nianzhu would not like rhubarb. After all, rhubarb looked like a dog. Now that Ming saw this scene, he knew that he was thinking too much. Our Xiao Nianzhu is a kind-hearted angel. Glancing at the rhubarb, Ming didn't pay much attention to it, and let Xiao Nianzhu tease the rhubarb at the door. At this time, Fan Zhengxian was fidgeting in the hotel. Because no one cared about him at all, there was Yang Qianchen in front of him before, but then Yang Qianchen also ran to the counter to chat with Niu Junda. For a time, Fan Zhengxian felt bitter in his heart. It is really an unwise decision to come over today. At this moment, Ming stepped forward and smiled. Mr. Fan, why don't you eat with us at night? Don't worry, there is no charge. After all, this is the person who guards the bureau. If he can sit with Sun Shouhang and Ouyang Yanyan, his status is naturally not low. Although I don't know why it appeared here, but there must be a purpose, nothing more than Huo Qingqing. Now Ming has understood one thing, no matter what, they will not give up Huo Qingqing. At this time, it's like being forced by life, what use is there to resist? It's better to obey. Since the explanation is useless, he simply let these people fix it. Anyway, if there is any problem, he is coming forward. Ming didn't think his own strength could be hidden forever, but before life became chaotic, he could keep it steady. For Ming's invitation, Fan Zhengxian felt flattered. This big boss actually invited himself to dinner. Could it be said that he recognized himself? Fan Zhengxian's heart can be said to be extremely excited at the moment, but he started to think carefully in his heart when he was excited. Could it be said that the boss is testing himself? By the way, it must be so. Can't express too much excitement. Sometimes people are so strange, sometimes after they have identified a direction, they don't hit the south wall and don't look back. Forbearing the excitement in his heart, Fan Zhengxian nodded slowly. In that case, it's hard work for the boss. It's okay. Ming smiled indifferently, and then there was a waiting time. Soon the food was on the table, and everyone was sitting in a group. Although Fan Zhengxian could not see any mood swings in the chair, he was always observing. Of course, Yang Qianchen and Niu Junda, needless to say, his target is Qin Nianzhu and Su Qingyuan. Just 5 minutes ago, Fan Zhengxian suddenly thought that he could even have a good relationship with Ming's little sister, Xiao Nianzhu, especially when he discovered that Ming is a mad demon. Ming didn't agree to anything Xiao Nianzhu said. The reason why he wants to have a good relationship with Ming is not only to ask the other party for something in the future, but also to know how to break through a higher cultivation base. Even if these are not there, there will be endless benefits if you can mix with the big guys in a losing streak. At this time, Fan Zhengxian was secretly observing the two Xiao Nianzhu. He found that Su Nianzhu's strength was terrifying, and she was actually a god of war level strength at a young age. Is there another Ouyang Yanyan? But soon Fan Zhengxian threw away the thoughts in his heart, and God of War Breakthrough became an emperor. Where does it mean that breakthrough can be breakthrough? And Xiao Nianzhu is only a general level, but Fan Zhengxian will not despise Xiao Nianzhu because of this, but attaches great importance to it. After all, low strength means that some resources are needed, and he can just provide these resources. After thinking about it, Fan Zhengxian couldn't help being excited. The whole meal was eaten absent-mindedly. Thank you, boss, for the hospitality. Before leaving, Fan Zhengxian smiled at Ming, not licking the dog at all. Ming also nodded indifferently. It doesn't matter, I will often come to take care of business in the future. Fan Zhengxian was excited again. As expected, he didn't come in vain this time. Although I don't know if Yang Qianchen and Niu Junda are seeing anything, this trip is worth it. At present, it has been initially mixed and familiar. As long as you take care of the voice more in the future, it will obviously have greater benefits. After Fan Zhengxian was sent away, Niu Junda and Yang Qianchen also left, and the hotel became quiet again. Brother, I will take rhubarb back to take a bath. Xiao Nianzhu couldn't stand it for a long time, and after Ming agreed, she took the rhubarb into the yard. After entering the yard, Rhubarb understood why the spiritual qi around him was so pure, because of the big tree in the yard. Obviously this is a baby. This kind of baby, even if it has never been seen before, has never even heard of it. Before, he wanted to take a bite of the delicious-looking leaves. It was really covered by lard. If he took a bite, I was afraid that it would be turned into a dog meat hot pot by Qinming on the spot. After confirming that there is a good baby in the yard, Rhubarb is even more determined that he must be a licking dog in the future. Only by taking care of Xiao Nianzhu, it can better survive by the big brother. Just when Rhubarb was thinking about it, Xiao Nianzhu took it into the bathroom. Before it could react, the shower water poured on its head. Trenching, Rhubarb exclaimed in his heart. When he woke up and realized that he was going to take a bath, he sat on the ground calmly, showing a well-behaved appearance. Only in this way could Xiao Nianzhu like it more. What it doesn't know is that the nightmare has just begun. It was supposed to be a very comfortable thing to take a bath, but the taste changed on Xiao Nianzhu's side. This little girl changed her body and became a sturdy scrubber. With a brush in her hand, Xiao Nianzhu brushed her hair on the rhubarb, talking to herself as she brushed it. It's dirty. No, it's not enough to wash once. Rhubarb was stunned directly on the spot. Isn't it enough to wash once? Grandma, don't you know how ruthless you are? The dog's hair will almost be wiped out for you, okay? The thing of taking a bath lasted for a full hour, before Xiao Nianzhu took Rhubarb out of the toilet, and it felt like he was walking in the underworld when he was blowing. Too much torture. Xiao Nianzhu seems to have some obsessive-compulsive disorder. She found that some hairs on Rhubarb's body were dirty and could not be cleaned. She was stunned by holding a brush and brushing at those hairs for half an hour. Afterwards, the brush was still not clean. The girl simply took out a pair of scissors and cut them all directly. Fortunately, it's just a few bunches of hair, and it doesn't have any effect. Its spirit power can recover from a shock. But Rhubarb's eyes grew long, turning his whole body into yellow hair. On the other hand, Qinming has already signed a contract with Huo Shusho. It is worth mentioning that the system directly judged that Qinming has completed the task. Congratulations to the host for completing the task. Get the first stage gift package. Host opens the package to get divine armament, Yuan Hong. Qinming was also quite satisfied with this reward, taking things out of the system space when no one was there. Yuan Hong deserves to be divine armament, and he seems to know that he is extremely powerful as a whole. The whole body of the sword exudes a palpitating cold glow, and the whole long sword reveals a kind of attribute. Sharp. When it was really sharp, and when he looked at Jian Feng, he felt a tingling pain. If it were a sword slashed on a beast or an evil spirit, it would be possible to kill on the spot. But Qinming doesn't know how to use swords, and there is no practical use for this thing. Hey, the living room seems to lack a lot of decorations. Qinming thought of this suddenly, and then he put Yuan Hong into his sheath, set a shelf on Guang Brain, and was sent to the shelf within half an hour. After placing them, Qinming was satisfied with how he looked. Not bad. Nodding with a smile, Qinming yawned when it was too early, and turned and walked upstairs. There are a lot of vacant rooms in the small building, not to mention the wing rooms outside. The extra Beimao and Huo Shusho can completely live in. As for Rhubarb, hey, where can't you sleep in such a big yard? To be a dog is to have the consciousness of being a dog. After Qinming went upstairs for half an hour, Huo Qingqing walked from his room to the living room. At the same time, Huo Shusho, Beimao and Rhubarb all appeared in the living room. They want to hold a meeting, which is requested by Huo Qingqing. The purpose is to say something that needs attention. Given that Huo Qingqing has been following Qinming for the longest time, neither Beimao nor Rhubarb had any objections. On the contrary, they couldn't wait. They are not fools. They have survived for at least 100 years and know a lot of things. Especially when they are next to the boss now, they know more clearly that they must figure out the preferences and taboos of the boss, or else they accidentally touch the bottom line, and needless to say, they know how tragic the consequences are. Especially this evening, the three of them looked at each other in the store because of past grudges and directly angered Qinming. You guys, in the future, you will all be people who will do things with the big guys, so let's forget the grievances in the past. How? Huo Qingqing spoke first, and at the same time looked at Beimao. She said this to Beimao. It's not that Huo Qingqing admits it, but to do so is completely self-defeating. What happened this evening is the best example. Compared with tit for tat against Beimao, Huo Qingqing wants a life that is comfortable and has many benefits even more. And once you provoke Qinming, you will most likely lose your life, and the majesty of the boss is not allowed to be offended. Cut, it makes me want to care about you. Bai Mao smiled contemptuously. Huo Qingqing suddenly said with a cold face, you can do whatever you want, even if you want to die, don't care about me. These words made Bai Maotong speechless. After all, Huo Qingqing and Qin Ming have been together for the longest time, and the relationship is naturally better than these newcomers. I don't waste much time, just say it. Huo Qingqing said indifferently. According to my summary, the boss has a pretty good temper. It's not the kind of killing people at every turn. On weekdays, you only need to do your own work tasks, and you can even make jokes with big guys. As soon as this remark came out, several people were shocked. Huo Shusho looked at Huo Qingqing's eyes with shock. Sister, are you sure? Of course I'm sure. I tried to test with a mortal heart, but the boss has a very good temper, but... As he said, Huo Qingqing's face became solemn. The boss is very fond of the business of the Shenling Hotel. I have heard the boss sigh because of the bad business of the hotel more than once. All of you, no matter what you are doing, you will eventually pursue it and serve the hotel well, understand? In addition, what happened this afternoon is the first and last time it happened again. I think everyone will be affected. Needless to say, everyone knows what the consequences are after being involved. There is one more thing, boss is a pet sister crazy demon. Xiao Nianzu is the heart and soul of the big brothers. I would like to advise you here. You can provoke anyone, but don't provoke the Aunt Nianzu, otherwise I promise that even if the true God comes, it won't keep you. Quote. For this, rhubarb has the most say. It was almost scared to death this afternoon. Qin Ming's smile was simply terrifying. Well, I don't know much about the rest. Everyone nodded one after another, and being able to provide such information proved that Huo Qingqing was not bad. And let's be honest, everyone is doing things behind the boss, and the relationship between them must be good. No one is stupid enough to collude secretly to gain benefits. In the face of Qin Ming's strength, all conspiracies and tricks are looking for death. Hey, what is that thing? I haven't seen it before. Suddenly, Huo Qingqing noticed a long sword on the TV cabinet in the living room. When she said this, everyone looked over. Huo Shusho cautiously stepped forward, preparing to observe it carefully, but as soon as she approached, she suddenly turned pale. So sharp, that powerful sense of sharpness pierced her soul directly. Is this the legendary divine armament? Suddenly, Bai Mao exclaimed. What, divine armament? Rhubarb also jumped up, his face full of disbelief. In their cognition, divine armament is a legendary existence, and these divine objects have exceeded their cognition. Leave quickly, Huo Qingqing shouted at Huo Shusho. Divine armament has own consciousness. If you dare to approach except the owner, you will die. Now Huo Shusho jumped back with a pale face, which made it feel much better. Sure enough, that terrifying sharpness just now was Yuan Hong's warning to her. 3 people and 1 dog at a time swallowed saliva subconsciously. This is divine armament, a legendary existence. As a result, it is just like an accessory in the living room. The big guy really deserves to be the big guy. I really want to see its true colors. Bai Mao murmured. He is a sword master, but his own was lost when he was suppressed. Hey, don't think about it, even if divine armament is now unsuspectingly placed here, if you can get close, I will count as a loss. Huo Shusho sneered. Indeed, just now Huo Shusho has personally demonstrated. If you dare to move forward, Yuan Hong will definitely kill her with sword ray easily, and Qin Ming won't say anything at all by then. Who told you to find your own death and approach Yuan Hong? Although it is very hot in my heart, everyone knows that whoever touches this thing will die. I'll go outside to get some air. Bai Mao sighed. After all, as a sword master and sword repairer, his desire for a sword is incomparable, especially the existence of divine armament like Yuan Hong. One can imagine how fiery Bai Mao is now, and he can only hold it back forcibly. When everyone walked out of the living room, they saw cherry blossoms in full bloom in the yard. It was strange to say that even if these cherry blossoms were genetically bred varieties, they would not bloom so vigorously these days. The eyes of the 4 people fell on the big tree in the corner of the yard. This is where the spiritual qi comes from, Huo Qingqing said softly. Rhubarb sighed. The leaves and the flowers are delicious just by looking at them. If I can eat a bite. Just you, eating shit is about the same. Beimao sneered. Xiao Beimao, what do you mean? Literal meaning. Although daddy is a dog, you can't humiliate me like this. Why, want to fight? As soon as this remark came out, the rhubarb fainted suddenly, and it would be fine if he was fighting outside, but now, it was under Qin Ming's nose. Fighting is tantamount to death. Several people sighed again, and the things in this small courtyard were enough to shock them, not to mention Qin Ming's ability to destroy the world. But then again, rhubarb, have you ever eaten shit? The big yellow dog trembled and turned his head to look at the white hair in a daze. Beimao stared at both eyes and asked very seriously. Suddenly, the rhubarb hair is gone. I'll kill you, immortal board, Beimao, you will die. Beimao smiled, ignoring the rhubarb that was jumping. This is so angry that rhubarb is trembling all over, and the dog's nose and eyes can't see the slightest appearance. Of course, rhubarb also knows how to do it. It's impossible to do it. But who said you can't move your mouth? Click. Wow, Beimao clutched his butt, and resisted the pain without yelling out. If he yelled out, it would really be dead. You are a real dog. Cut. Rhubarb snorted, found a cherry blossom tree in a swift smoke, dug a hole underneath, and lay down happily. This scene was frantic with angry white hair, but he was helpless. In the early morning, the beautiful sun shines on the ground. Qin Ming walked out of the room and stretched, looking down from the balcony. It was full of pink cherry blossoms. Rhubarb and Xiao Nianzhu were playing happily in the yard. A beautiful day, it's beginning again, Qin Ming said with a smile. But Rhubarb, who was being teased by Xiao Nianzhu, was shocked in her heart. It clearly felt that Xiao Nianzhu's strength ascension had a realm. Yesterday it was only at the general level, but now it is actually the strength of an intermediate general. Can't hang up after opening. But it quickly figured out, as a big brother, little sister, how could Xiao Nianzhu's treatment be bad? The level of this strength ascension is even a bit slow. For a while, Rhubarb strengthened the thoughts in his heart. That is to hug this thigh well. Brother, I'm going to school. There was a silver bell-like voice, and Xiao Nianzhu walked to school beautifully. Entering the classroom, Xiao Nianzhu rushed to Su Qingyuan's side. Xiao Nuan, I have been promoted again. Xiao Nianzhu couldn't help being excited and excited. When she first learned that the strength of own guardian spirit was only bronze rank, she was indeed a little frustrated. But what she didn't expect was that in just a few days, she actually became the strength of an intermediate general. Such rapid progress made her feel like a dream. And Su Qingyuan was also happy for Xiao Nianzhu from the heart, but the Oni-san in her guardian spirit space seemed to have seen a ghost. How can this be? In just a few days, directly ascension a big realm. Oni-san is dumbfounded, this is beyond common sense at all. Let me just say it, you can't underestimate anyone. Su Qingyuan said to Oni-san very seriously. The corners of Oni-san's mouth twitched and he ignored it. She doesn't believe in this evil. Where is the problem? The pride of the god of war guardian spirit made Oni-san extremely unhappy. I'm just worrying about what's wrong with her. I'm like the kind of person who can be jealous. Oni-san snorted coldly in her heart, and then taking advantage of the class time, she moved directly into Xiao Nianzhu's guardian spirit space with a movement. Once inside, Oni-san frowned. This guardian spirit space is so big that it has no edges. Not only that, but the space inside it fluctuates very strongly. It's not like a space that a general class can have. Even the scope of this place is bigger than her guardian spirit space. Man, come out, Oni-san snorted coldly. As soon as his voice fell, a black and white kitten appeared in front of Oni-san. The kitten yawned and looked sleepy, as if he had just woke up. In fact, since Qin Ming forced the ascension of this product on that day, the little cat has been feeling very swollen and sleepy. Basically, except when communicating with Xiao Nianzhu, she quickly digested the strength that forced ascension in her sleep. Who are you? Kitty said softly. Brush. Before waiting for any response, Kitty felt like she was being lifted and picked up by the neck. Suddenly, an unbearable past came to mind. Wow, what are you doing? Kitty fried hair. Oni-san ignored it, but looked at the kitty carefully, but when she looked around, she didn't find anything wrong. It shouldn't be. What did you eat? Heavenly and mortal treasures failed, why is the strength ascension so fast? Oni-san wondered. The kitten trembled, and she instantly remembered Qinming's warning. Dare to say half a word. Thinking of the eyeball that was more than 10 times larger than her own body, Xiaomu only felt fear in her heart. You want to control, let me down immediately, otherwise I'm welcome. The little cat opened her teeth and danced. After a few days of waking up, Kitty has completely recovered her own temperament, regardless of her small body, but her strength is very fierce. He has a trace of white tiger blood, and his strength is strong, not to mention Qinming's forcible ascension. The kitten now feels so strong that he has a burst of spleen, which is called a blast. Oh, the tone is not small, you can be a little cat. Oni-san didn't finish her words, and her whole body trembled. She quickly loosened the back of the kitten's neck, and her figure kept receding. A thing called fear spreads in the heart. She only felt that what she was in front of was not a weak little cat, but a wild beast that was strong enough to explode. Impossible, what the hell are you? Get out quickly, don't blame me for being polite, Kitty warned. At first, Oni-san was still feeling frustrated, but she soon realized that no matter how strange this little cat was, she was only a warlord-level strength after all. She is a god of war guardian spirit, afraid of a fart. Right now, Oni-san's face was gloomy, and he rolled up his sleeves and was about to do it. But Kitty is faster than her, like a black and white lightning rushing to Oni-san. Snapped. A small paw print appeared on Oni-san's face, and she flew out directly. Penetrate the space. When Oni-san came back to his senses, he found that he was already in the own guardian spirit space. She was confused. Who am I? Where am I? How could this be? After the kitty drove Oni-san away, she clapped her hands easily, as if she had dealt with a mortal fly. Belch. There was a sudden hiccup, and the kitten looked bitter. Oh, how come I forcibly stuff so many things into my stomach, how can I digest it? Nianzu is so behaved, she has no place to vent her strength. The kitty was lying on the ground bitterly, the soreness in his stomach rushing into his mind, it was sour and refreshing. On the podium in the classroom, the teacher put down the book in his hand and lifted his own frame. Students, gather in the martial arts field in half an hour. The whole school competes. As soon as this statement came out, the classroom was silent for a minute, and then the pan was fried. Is there any mistake? I've just been to school for less than half a month, competing. I'm almost beaten up when I go up. Teacher, we are all freshmen, do we want to go too? On the stage, the teacher's face was indifferent. This time the competition is very important, everyone should participate. Suddenly, there was a groan in the classroom. But please don't worry, students, the freshmen will compete with the freshmen, there will be no problems. After being said that, everyone was finally relieved a lot. But there are still many people who have pale expressions, and even trembles when they hear that they are going to compete with the new students. Although they are all freshmen, not everyone is ignorant and can't fight. There are many ruthless people in the first-year freshmen, and the fiercest one is in his class. Many people subconsciously turned their heads and looked at the back of the classroom, only to see two beautiful girls sitting there. Xiao Nuan, they are all looking at you, Xiao Nianzu said with a grin. Su Qingyuan blushed, a little embarrassed. After transferring from an ordinary college to the Guardian Academy, Su Qingyuan's reputation exploded for a while, and no one knew it. Because of her strength, she is of the god of war level. It is not that no one has just awakened the guardian spirit to be god of war level strength, but this kind of existence obviously will not appear in the small city of East Sea City. In other words, it should be a few precious universities in the imperial capital. This is also true. Everyone in the Guardian College of Tunghai University is very curious about Su Qingyuan. Simply put, classmates, what did you do and why were you admitted to Tunghai University? Okay, you don't need to see student Su Qingyuan, she is special and doesn't need to compete. Huh, that's good, that's good. What a hammer, it makes you beat other ruthless people. Ahem, didn't I subconsciously sigh? As a salted fish, we must have the mental consciousness of salted fish. We used to make soy sauce. For a while, the classroom became lively again. 10 minutes later, thousands of students lined up neatly according to class and age at the training ground of the Guardian Academy. There are 10 big arenas on the martial arts arena, which are commonly used for training in martial arts competitions. Because they are all freshmen, They didn't even enter the school for half a month at the beginning, especially the few talents Xiao Nianzu who just transferred. They have no practical courses at all, and they have always been learning how to better master power, which is the foundation and necessity. It stands to reason that there is no need for freshmen to participate in this competition. But this year's freshmen have a lot of good seedlings, and this time they also want to see if they can miss them. If you are lucky enough to meet a few good students, you can participate in the freshman group competition. This time the competition is to welcome the national youth competition held every 3 years. The dean is a very elegant middle-aged man who looks like a scholar. At this moment, he is standing behind the microphone with a signature elegant smile on his face. There are 5 places for each grade in the college. I hope that all students can do their best to show their best. Then I won't say much nonsense, now your class teacher will explain it in detail. There was a sensation in the audience. It turned out to be a youth contest. My God, can this kind of game get me in my turn? Of course it's not your turn. You're just a salted fish and soy sauce. You'll be up on stage and give in. Oh, how do you say it? What happened to the salted fish? Can't the salted fish have dreams? That is, salted fish has dreams too. Xiao Nianzu exclaimed excitedly. She was very excited. After awakening the guardian spirit, she felt like a dream, and now she has more opportunities to see the wider world. Why not be excited? As a result, Xiao Nianzu firmly grasped Su Qingyuan's arm and shook it vigorously to vent his excitement. That's a national martial arts competition, Xiao Nianzu said excitedly. Su Qingyuan was also stunned. Although she sometimes seemed dazed, she also had some IQ. Own strength, obviously a special treatment, skipped the school competition and entered the 5 places. Nianzu, I don't know how to fight. Su Qingyuan was anxious. Neither will I, but it doesn't matter, the teacher will definitely not let you go up like this. Xiao Nianzu smiled like a thief. I guess, you must have a devil training. Don't, Nianzu, I. For a time, Su Qingyuan's girl was simply incoherent. Don't do anything else, you are god of war level strength, afraid of a fart. In my mind, Oni-san's voice came. It's not the devil training, I tell you, you must go, don't shrink. Inexplicably slapped, this Oni-san mentality is in an explosive state, and now it is discovered that the own host is a timid guy, who is called a wimp in his heart. Under her strict urging, Su Qingyuan's eyes were reddish, and she was frightened. Compared to her appearance, Xiao Nianzu looks much more refreshed. Although she doesn't know how to fight, the guardian spirit can. The book says that if you can successfully communicate with the guardian spirit, you can borrow the guardian spirit to fight. Xiao Nianzu was holding a book, and said something in her mouth. Xiao Nuan, can you tell me if I can do it? My guardian spirit is a little cat. Guarding the spiritual space, the little cat almost fainted. God knows, she has the blood of white tiger, will the battle be sturdy enough to explode? Ding ding ding. When Xiao Nianzu was thinking about it, the bell rang and the competition began. It started in the 1st grade. The way of competition is that everyone has a number, and then a random lottery will be drawn, and the 2 numbers drawn will fight in the same arena. There are 10 arenas in total. There are only more than 700 students in the 1st grade, so the battle is very fast. However, it takes a few days to truly compete out of the top 5. Number 1 ring, number 483 versus. No, 33. The 2nd ring, 77 versus. 650. The 3rd ring. Before long, the ring was full of people, and with an order, the students scuffled together. After all, it is the Guardian Academy, the existence of force. Fighting is commonplace. Xiao Nianzu watched the various roars and fights on the ring, and her blood boiled for a while. For the first time, she discovered that she was really yearning for such a battle. And many people are in the same state as Xiao Nianzu, some people are excited, some people cringe. Compared with the 1st grade, the students in the 2nd grade and up appear much calmer, and they even comment on their battles with a smile. Where is the guardian battle? It's basically elementary school students fighting. After all, it is the 1st grade, without systematic training. I don't know why the school allows freshmen to participate. In the past, didn't they only qualify for the 2nd grade? Among the many discussions, the competition was one after another. 422 versus 578. Xiao Nianzhu stood up with a loud voice. She is number 578. Finally it was her turn. Xiao Nianzhu was so excited that her face flushed and her hands shook slightly. Step by step onto the ring, she swallowed her saliva nervously. Opposite Xiao Nianzhu, a boy who was 1.85 meters tall and very handsome was leaning on the Range Rover. Wow, it's a male god. Chu Jingyao, I love you. Who is this woman? Go down quickly, don't stop me from seeing the male god. The voices of a group of fans around me came and went one after another. On the ring, Xiao Nianzhu was embarrassed for a while, but Chu Jingyao, who looked lazy on the opposite side, was very casual and even greeted the girls in the audience. It's over. How did Nianzhu meet this guy? Su Qingyuan was shocked. She had heard that Chu Jingyao was an extremely powerful one in the first grade. Not only did she possess the strength of a senior general, but in terms of combat it was comparable to seniors in the 3rd and 4th grades. It can be said that among the first-year freshmen, no one can be Chu Jingyao's opponent. Xiao Nianzhu met Chu Jingyao and was destined to be taught a lesson, and Su Qingyuan knew Nianzhu's character. It is a kind of cheerful and stubborn temperament. Sometimes, just like a cow, it can't be pulled back. Perhaps, this battle will give Xiao Nianzhu some psychological shadows. Thinking of this, Su Qingyuan couldn't help but clenched his hands tightly. The palms of his hands were full of sweat. That was because of Xiao Nianzhu's nervousness. This little girl is finished, she must be taught a lesson. In the guardian spirit space, Oni-san sneered again and again. In her opinion, Xiao Nianzhu had no chance of winning against Chu Jingyao. This is also true in Chu Jingyao's eyes. He knew that there would be this match before today, and he directly reserved one of the positions. Nowadays, the competition is just for a cutscene, and even he doesn't bother to play with these first-year newcomers. Ever since he was young, he decided to cultivate his aptitude, especially after awakening the guardian spirit. Chu Jingyao was trained by the devil in the family. In terms of force, he is even comparable to some guardians. Little girl, you look pretty. I am more pitiful and cherish Jade. I don't want to do anything to you. You can give up, Chu Jingyao said indifferently. Xiao Nianzhu's temperament is naturally impossible to give up. Even if she knew she was not an opponent, she would definitely try it. And in her guardian spirit space, the kitty has been so angry. Girl, I'll help you in a while. The little kitten said so arrogantly. I must teach this guy to be a good man. Xiao Nianzhu nodded solemnly. She chose to pin her hopes on the kitty. After all, she didn't know how to fight and had never been trained. How could she be Chu Jingyao's opponent? The guardian spirit helps the host fight in a special way, which is a memory-sharing ability. The host is fully capable of inheriting the fighting instinct of the guardian spirit. This is something that every guardian will experience, but Xiao Nianzhu has not read this point in many books. Ever since, she instinctively stood in place, dreaming that the kitty would take over control of her body. What are you doing in a daze? Kitty was dumbfounded. Didn't you control me to fight? Xiao Nianzhu blinked her eyes. Not me. The kitten will not know how to communicate with Nianzhu for a while. At this moment, Chu Jingyao seemed impatient, frowning slightly. Forget it, since you don't know each other, then I can only give you some deep memories. In Chu Jingyao's view, this girl definitely wanted to use this method to attract her own attention. Chu Jingyao didn't know how many times he had seen such inferior methods, and he was seen through every time. At the moment, Chu Jingyao quickly rushed forward, aiming at Xiao Nianzhu's abdomen and smashing it with a fist. The force is very light, and his control is perfect. After calculation, Nianzhu will not be hurt, it is just the strength that can knock the opponent out. Seeing this scene, many fans in the audience sneered again and again. Who is this woman? She really does not live or die. With the strength of the mid-level generals in only a small area, I dare to challenge our Chu young master and look for death. I definitely want to use battle to make young Master Chu feel sorry for her. Green tea. In the ridiculous voice of many fans, Xiao Nianzhu suddenly widened her eyes. Afterwards, she subconsciously stretched out her hand. Boom! Chu Jingyao was firmly grasped by her with a fist, his figure did not move a bit. For a moment, everyone was stunned. Su Qingyuan opened her mouth slightly, her eyes full of shock when she looked at Xiao Nianzhu. And Chu Jingyao was more like seeing a ghost. HMPH, so you still have some strength, but wanting to use this method to please me is ridiculous. Chu Jingyao sneered, his face showing disdain. He Chu family young master, how could he not even be able to see through this trick? This woman was clearly prepared. Do you know who I hate most in my life? Chu Jingyao looked at Nianzhu's eyes with contempt. I hate it the most. Someone is playing tricks with me. Generally speaking, people who play tricks with me will not have very good consequences. Xiao Nianzhu had her eyes wide open and her face was confused. What are you saying? The disgust in Chu Jingyao's eyes became more intense. Pretend to be stupid with me. If I don't have a brain, just put away the little cleverness. No matter, just hit you down. With that said, Chu Jingyao showed an unpredictable look, putting on a standard combat starting style. Xiao Nianzhu was still in a daze. What happened? Why did this guy talk so much? In the guardian spirit space, the black and white kitten was already scratching his head with anger, spinning around on the spot. Wow, I'm so angry. I can pretend to be so compelling, Ben Miao can't stand it. When it was said that it was too late, Chu Jingyao had already raised his hand and approached Xiao Nianxuimian. If Chu Jingyao had thought of giving Xiao Nianzhu a lesson before, now, she is completely angry. Woman, why have to be obsessed with Ben Xiao's face? And it's so useful. Really disgusting. In an instant, Chu Jingyao hit with an angry punch. At almost the same time, Xiao Nianzhu only felt her body stiff. Before she could react, she realized that she had turned her head to the side and escaped the punch. It's amazing, how did you do it? Xiao Nianzhu looked at her hands in disbelief, she didn't even mean to fight. In this scene, the little cat sighed. It even made Chu Jingyao crazy. Dare to be so serious. Chu Jingyao said angrily. The three behaviors I hate the most in my life, you have all taken care of me, are you here to make my mentality? Right now Chu Jingyao no longer kept his hands, ready to use all of his strength. At this time, under the kitty's persuasion in every possible way, Nianzhu assumed a very twisted posture. What? Accompanied by a jiaohe, Xiao Nianzhu punched straight out. Chu Jingyao sneered. He didn't strike this strike to put in one's eyes, after all, his guardian spirit was very peculiar and belonged to the power system. In his opinion, it doesn't hurt to resist Nianzhu's attack. He raised his hand casually, trying to block the punch. Then, boom, a figure flew upside down and hit the rope on the edge of the ring severely. Chu Jingyao half kneeled on the ground, with one hand covering his chest, his eyes widened, his complexion flushed. Pain, it really hurts. If he hadn't forcibly endured it, he might be able to shout out. The audience screamed in surprise. You guy, dare to do something to my male god. My god, it doesn't hurt or it hurts, the male god, come on, stand up and fight back. Xiao Nianzhu ignored the messy sounds, but smiled awkwardly and stretched out her hand to scratch her head. Sorry, I don't know how to fight. As soon as he said this, Chu Jingyao almost vomited blood. You beat people into the air with one punch. Doesn't it mean you can't fight? Woman, very good, you succeeded in angering me. Compared to the other party's words, Chu Jingyao disliked the other party's attitude even more. This is simply acting in front of oneself. Can he bear it? In the next second, Chu Jingyao's fist was covered with a layer of black light, and he rushed towards Xiao Nianzhu again. Girl Nianzhu dodges a punch with her head sideways, then she backs sideways, and then turns to dodge. After a series of dazzling dodge actions, many people are stunned. The teachers who were watching stood up even more. Have you seen it just now? This dodge action is so smooth that it explodes. Sure enough, there are evildoers in the new students. Xiao Nianzhu stood on the ring and couldn't believe that she could dodge these fists. Before, she felt that she was going to be shot. Don't patronize Flash, do it, do it. Kitty covered her eyes with two paws. Pick up your fist and hit him. But I don't know how to fight. Xiao Nianzhu used blinking magic once again, extremely cute. You just think about him, he bullied your dog, yes, or he did something to you big brother. The kitten said casually. Then, Xiao Nianzhu's momentum changed in vain. Don't bully my brother. Xiao Nianzhu's prehistoric universe seemed to be opened, and she burst out with a terrifying aura. It was like a heroic and mighty female general. Nianzhu looked at Chu Jingyao, and the moment the latter was being watched, she subconsciously took a step towards retreated. After reacting, Chu Jingyao only felt a burning hot on his face. I was actually scared by the scheming woman in front of me. You. However, before Chu Jingyao finished speaking, Xiao Nianzhu rushed forward. The Fen fist aimed at Chu Jingyao's left eye and smashed in the past. The speed was surprisingly fast, and the strength was quite large. Boom! With a muffled sound, Chu Jingyao's body was knocked over directly on the spot and hit the ground severely. This is caused by being too strong. For a while, Chu Jingyao was beaten up. Not only him, but all the people who noticed here are in the same awkward state. Then, Xiao Nianzhu raised her fist again and slammed it on Chu Jingyao's right eye. Wow! The screams reverberated in the training ground. No one can bully my brother. Xiao Nianzhu was fierce and rode directly on Chu Jingyao, his fist smashed like raindrops. From the outside, it looked like Xiao Nianzhu was making the king's 8 punches. In fact, she was using the guardian spirit's fighting instincts with these fists. Every punch looks weak, but in fact, it is quite painful to hit a person. Chu Jingyao, who was rubbed on the ground, was able to testify about this. He felt like he had been bombarded by a cannonball, and the arm covering his face was about to fracture. Xiao Nianzhu's crazy output made everyone stunned for a long time. Finally, a teacher reflected. What about people? Go up to save people, are they all dead? At the moment, the 2 teachers on the side of the ring rushed to the ring, desperately pulling Xiao Nianzhu away. In the process of pulling, Xiao Nianzhu was still spreading her teeth and claws, and even almost rubbed a teacher on the ground together. Huh, what's wrong with me? Suddenly, the girl Nianzhu stared at own hands in a daze, and looked around in confusion. Ahem, Chin Nianzhu, next time, be careful. A teacher coughed embarrassingly. On the ring, Chu Jingyao lay down with a look of lovelessness. He stared at the ceiling with hollow eyes. Who am I? Where am I? This is the only thought in his mind. He was then carried away. The fans in the audience who kept wanting to denounce Nianzhu couldn't bear to look straight at this time. It's miserable, it's miserable. Until she returned to her position from the ring, Xiao Nianzhu didn't know what was going on. She directly said that she was very angry and angry just now, as if she had beaten someone up. In a daze, some details can't be recalled. Nianzhu, you were too scary just now. Su Qingyuan grabbed Nianzhu's hand. Xiao Nianzhu also frowned. I don't understand, I don't know how this happened. It's okay if you're fine, Chu Jingyao is too irritating, and he said all kinds of messy things. I also think whether he has a problem with his brain. Maybe, there should be a problem. Well, take him away from now on. That's right, just treat it as if you don't know each other when you encounter it on the road. If the conversation between the 2 is heard by Chu Jingyao, he might be really angry and die on the spot. In less than 10 minutes, the results of the inspection came out. The injuries on his body were not serious, and only a dozen bones were broken. With the current medical level and Chu Jingyao's physical strength, he could recover in a day. But this guy seemed to have something wrong with his mental state, and he kept looking at the ceiling dumbly. I don't know what I'm talking about. In view of the previous events, the academy did not dare to continue to let Xiao Nianzhu come to the stage to compete. But it cannot be denied that her strength is indeed very strong. In the end, the academy said that Xiao Nianzhu was directly promoted to the top 10, and she could only continue to fight when the last 10 contests. For some reason, there is no need to compete. Nianzhu is a little disappointed for no reason. How to say? The feeling of beating is good. In the guardian spirit space, a black and white kitten was hiding in the corner shivering. She felt that Xiao Nianzhu was broken by her own play. Just said casually, the ghost knew that Xiao Nianzhu would suddenly become like this. If that horrible existence knows about this, then she will be dead. Ooh, what did I do wrong? How did it become like this? The kitty wanted to cry without tears. The other person who also wanted to cry without tears was lying in the ward at this time. Chu Jingyao looked at himself, who was covered with auxiliary treatment equipment, and tears flowed down. Shame, really shame. Chu Jingyao's life is rich in clothes and jade, and he has never failed since his debut. As a result, he has been beaten like this until now. It's shameful to throw it home. Thinking of the scene of being rubbed against the ground by a woman in full view, he blushed and wanted to find a seam to go straight down. especially since he couldn't even touch each other at all. Judging from many circumstances, it is enough to prove that the woman is much stronger than him. But the more he thought about it, Chu Jingyao became more angry and ashamed. Obviously better than yourself, why do you want to pretend that you don't know anything? Isn't this pretending? Today, everything he has always been proud of was severely crushed by a strange woman. Even the fragments were trampled into powder. Chu Jingyao was lost. Not long after, a middle-aged man walked into the ward and was taken aback when he saw Chu Jingyao now. Then he saw his shoulders start to shrug, and the expression on his face was very distorted. Obviously he wanted to laugh but didn't dare to laugh. "Young master, go home, master wants to see you." After a long time, the middle-aged man couldn't calm his mood. He could only tremble, his complexion flushed, and he opened his mouth with a smile on his scalp. Chu Jingyao was even more black in front of him. "I see, you, help me up. Yes, come on, you laugh as much as you want, why can't I do anything to you?" As soon as the voice fell, the middle-aged man burst into laughter. Chu Jingyao's face was hot, but he couldn't help it. If you lose, you lose. Doesn't it make people laugh when being beaten like this? But the laughter in the ward lasted at least 10 minutes. Chu Jingyao was angry at Xiao Nianzu's anger straight ascension. I don't know how long it took before Chu Jingyao walked into a manor in embarrassment with 2 dark circles under his eyes and a treatment device. All the servants and security guards who passed by looked at him with shocked eyes. On the other hand, Chu Jingyao, this guy had no expression on his face and entered the sage mode. Anyway, the laughter never stopped in my ears along the way. To be honest, Chu Jingyao could hold back other things, but he couldn't stand the 2 dark circles on his face. That's his handsome face. It was ruined. Dragging his tired body, Chu Jingyao walked into the living room and slumped directly on the sofa. His face was full of tired expressions. A middle-aged man was reading a rare paper newspaper, and he felt Chu Jingyao walk in. He glanced at the situation, and he couldn't help but laugh. "Dad, laugh. Hee hee, what do you care about whether you laugh or not? You are so funny, isn't it just for people to laugh?" Chu Zongliang chuckled and said, "How about it, this time I know there is someone outside Taoist, right? Just like you, even Donghai University can't handle it. Do you still want to study at the Imperial Capital University?" Dreaming. Listening to his father's unceremonious sarcasm, Chu Jingyao felt uncomfortable in his heart. Obviously that woman is deceiving, so strong, she has to pretend that she doesn't understand anything. "I'm just being confused," Chu Jingyao muttered. "Even if it is swindling, that is the skill of others. If you are caught, you are stupid." Chu Zongliang coldly snorted. "Life and death fight, you can do everything. You have to know that this is not a battle under the rules. Victory or defeat is divided into life and death. This time when you have learned a lesson, I hope you can feel something from it. Okay, get out, heal yourself." Chu Jingyao limped back to the room with a calm face. "Lao Zhang, do you have any information about that girl?" After Chu Jingyao left, Chu Zongliang smiled indifferently. Afterwards, a piece of information was sent to his Guangman. After reading it, Chu Zongliang frowned. "In just a few days, the strength ascension is so fast, what kind of supplement have you eaten?" Chu Zongliang squinted his eyes slightly. "The background is too clean, it's too clean." "Master, do you want to investigate it carefully?" Chu Zongliang hurriedly waved his hand. "It's okay, someone in Chu doesn't have such a small belly. If you lose, you lose. There is nothing to say. However, the situation at that time was exactly what you said. This girl will grow up in the future, and she will also be the overlord. On the other side, inside the Shenling Hotel. So, you put people in the hospital." Qin Ming stared at Xiao Nianzu blankly, her eyes dull. Especially after seeing Nianzu nodding his head, he directly stood up and kept looking at Nianzu. "This girl, our own little sister. So cruel. Boss, it must be the kid on stage that made Nianzu angry." Su Qingyuan hurriedly explained, for fear that Qin Ming would be unhappy about it. The Demon King and Demon King who had been watching the excitement on the side also reacted and hurried forward. "Yes, boss, how can such a lovely girl as Nianzu take the initiative to hit someone? She must be angry. This is what Huo Qingqing said. That guy must have humiliated Nianzu before the war, he is looking for death. This is what Bai Mao said. But Rhubarb, who could speak but didn't dare to speak, could only lie on the ground, thinking in his mind or else to do that kid at night. Then eat it and treat it cleanly. After all, Xiaonianzu is its biggest thigh, dare to bully its legs, is this Yucoin bullying its rhubarb? Well, what are you doing so nervously, am I like that kind of unreasonable person? Qin Ming waved his hand calmly. Anyway, Xiaonianzu did nothing wrong this time. Anyway, it's a competition, and there is no rule that you can't press it on the ground, right? Don't worry, just pay attention next time. If there is any trouble, I will bear it for you. Xiaonianzu nodded hurriedly, with a happy smile on her face. Although Qin Ming was frightened, he didn't ask too much. After all, Xiaonianzu grew up with his own eyes, and he knows what disposition is best. That guy, Xiaonianzu wouldn't be so angry if she didn't die. Besides, the guardian spirit in Nianzu's body appears to be only the strength of an intermediate warlord, but in fact, it is already a high-level god of war guardian spirit. Qin Ming was planning to force the ascension to the level of gods after the little thing was digested. It is not impossible. The guardian spirit wants to be promoted simply to absorb the spiritual qi problem. Just because of spiritual qi, he has a lot of it. Even if the spiritual qi is not enough, the spirit power that protects the spirit can be used directly. No more, eating a piece of the branches and leaves of the sacred tree of chaos is always enough, right? After that, Qin Ming left this matter directly behind his head, and didn't think much about it at all. After chatting for a while, Qin Ming also found a problem. Xiaonianzu had no combat experience at all. Although she had the fighting instinct of a guardian spirit, this thing didn't work. The time has not yet come to teach these courses in school. Suddenly, the figure of Cao Bao in a red robe walked in. Qin Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. Ha 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 ha, Lao Qin, I will tell you the great news today. Niu Junda laughed wildly as soon as he came in, the flesh on his face was trembling, and the eyebrows were full of unbearable pride. However, as the guy laughed wildly, he found that no one around him was paying attention to him. Suddenly Niu Junda was embarrassed. Don't tell me, can you ask me any good news? Niu Junda scratched his head. At this time, Chen Gui, who was brave enough to fight for justice, emerged. What good news? Still borrowing the donkey from the slope, Niu Junda was full of excitement. Actually, I have already made a breakthrough to become a warrior-level guardian the day before yesterday, and have successfully break through 2 realms, and now I am the strength of an intermediate warrior. Cut. A group of people broke apart. Don't worry, guard the martial arts competition in the bureau today in order to select places to participate in the national martial arts competition. As Niu Junda said, a proud expression appeared on his face. I'm not talented, the first place among the general guardians. Please call me the bull sword god from now on. Puff. Xiaonianzu couldn't help laughing first. She clutched her belly and kept rolling on the sofa bench. Ah ha ha, bull sword god, your name is too, ha ha, laughed me to death. Niu Junda's proud expression disappeared instantly, his face flushed. This is our group who canonized me, even Boss Sun agrees. Come on, just you, return the sword god. Bai Mao sneered sneer. As a sword master, if he could, he would definitely say without exaggeration that he used the sword for 300 years. I don't know how many souls are under the sword. Even with one sword, a mountain fairy was destroyed. With such strength, he himself dare not call it a sword god. How can you, Niu Junda? Don't look down on people, this sword god has leapfrogged and killed evil spirits. Niu Junda straightened his chest. Old Qin, you testify to me. Yes, yes, you are dead. Qin Ming looked helpless. Why are you alone? What, do you want to see my girlfriend? Speaking of this, Niu Junda was very excited. After he won the championship, he immediately informed his girlfriend Shanur and received a big reward directly. New pose unlocked. Thinking of this, Niu Junda felt hot all over. What are you doing? Why do you blush suddenly? Huo Shusho stepped forward, showing a look that I knew. Tisk tusk tusk, what do you think in the crowd? Niu Junda smiled awkwardly. Of course this sword god is thinking of something that will shine in the national martial arts competition. Hey, a big cow is flying in the sky. A sarcasm came from the door, and Yang Qianqin walked in with a look of disgust. If you have other things cheaper, you still sell well. It doesn't matter whether you can enter the primary election or not depending on your strength. Niu Junda felt a bitter resentment when he was mercilessly ridiculed by the boss in front of him. When Yang Qianchen came in, Qinming showed a smile on his face. Coming. It just so happens that you are here, come, and discuss something with you. Qinming waved at Yang Qianchen. Yang Qianchen followed to the door with a suspicious look. Mysterious, tell me something. During this time, Yang Qianchen and Niu Junda have become regular customers in the store, and they will definitely come twice a day. One come and two. Although the two still disliked each other because of the first incident, the relationship has improved a bit after all. In Yang Qianchen's view, this is a good opportunity. Everyone believed that Qinming was controlled by Huo Qingqing, so Qinming represented Huo Qingqing's will. At this moment, when Qinming said things to himself mysteriously, Yang Qianchen became vigilant subconsciously. At the same time, with 120,000 points in my heart, I am ready to analyze the meaning behind each sentence. I have something to ask you. Qinming lighted a cigarette and said calmly. Yang Qianchen narrowed his eyes slightly, is it here? Huo Qingqing, your demon girl's strategy is finally going out of his way. Right now she frowned. What's the matter? It's simple, recently. Qinming told Yang Qianchen of the contest Xiao Nianzhu participated in today, and then said that he wanted Yang Qianchen to help train Xiao Nianzhu. Of course, it is not for free, but it is also paid. That is, Yang Qianchen can eat and drink in the store during the training, all for free, and after the training, he can enjoy a 20% discount. Such a good treatment, Yang Qianchen will definitely agree. After hearing Qinming's words, Yang Qianchen stood dumbfounded. With such an expression in Qinming's eyes, the other party was shocked by the conditions he had offered. After all, for nearly half a month, he had been eating and drinking for nothing, and he was shocked when he changed him. That's it. For a long time, Yang Qianchen's eyes twitched. Yes, that's it. After all, look at me, I have a small business. During this time, the business has just picked up a bit, and the extra money is also. Stop it. Yang Qianchen raised his hand to stop. There was an awkward smile on her face at this moment. Good fellow, she thought she could get some useful information from Qinming, but it turned out to be just such a thing. Really treat her as an idler. 1 month, free food and drink. Yang Qianchen used a finger. Qinming squinted his eyes, raised his hand to hold Yang Qianchen's finger, and abruptly pressed her fingertips down. Half a month. Wow, Qinming, you are shameless enough to let me teach your sister martial arts in only half a month. That's half a month, Qinming Sheng said hoarsely. God knows how much he is willing to pay such a big price, how much he has prepared in his heart. After all, Yang Qianchen seems to be a big beauty, but in fact she is a big stomach king. 1 meal can eat Qinming's 2 meals. Round up to the nearest whole day, and you can lose your income for a day. Hi, you. Yang Qianchen gritted his teeth and finally nodded. No way, Qinming's food is so delicious. After eating Qinming's food, every time he goes to the cafeteria, Yang Qianchen feels that he is eating shit. I didn't dare to come over to eat blatantly before. After all, the woman Yang Yanyan was still there, staring strictly. Now is an excellent opportunity. Yang Qianchen intends to eat back everything he missed before. And this can better and more profitably monitor Huo Qingqing. Although there is only time every night, it is enough. The deal will start tonight. Qinming said with a smile. No problem, you can go cooking. Today I want to eat sweet and sour pork ribs, salt and pepper ribs, grilled ribs, braised ribs, oh, let's have another rib soup. Yang Qianchen said with one hand in his waist. The corner of Qinming's mouth twitched. I think you are just a rib. Do you know if the price of pork has risen, there are not so many ribs for you to eat. It's only the first meal, are you going to pay me back? Yang Qianchen stared. Qinming was mad at it, but he couldn't help it, for Nianzhu. Tolerate. Seeing Qinming rushing into the kitchen with grief and anger, the smile on Yang Qianchen's face is not to mention how brilliant. Belch. After a full hiccup, Yang Qianchen threw a bone on the table casually. At this moment, the bones on the dining table in front of her had been piled up into a hill, and everyone looked at her in shock. Xiao Nianzhu's mouth twitched even more, and she kept swallowing saliva. They witnessed that Yang Qianchen had eaten all the pork ribs. Qin Ming made all the ribs she requested, and they were generous in weight. Qin Ming was thinking about holding this stuff to death, but he didn't expect that Yang Qianqin almost bankrupted him. Can I withdraw my previous transaction? Qin Ming gritted his teeth. No way. Yang Qianqin wiped his flaming red lips and stood up to pat his stomach. Nianzhu girl, Su Qingyuan, you two come with me. Qin Ming had already prepared the teaching venue, and it was in the courtyard. There is an open space in the backyard that has not yet been developed, and the place is quite large. It is still very ample to teach some fighting skills. Qin Ming originally wanted to observe it, but was rejected by Yang Qianqin. The reason is to make people vomit blood. When I teach things, I don't like to be watched by others, or you change. Of course, Qin Ming couldn't change people anymore. He spent more ribs than a whole pig. At such a high price, wouldn't it be a blood loss for him to change people now? In the end, he can only grit his teeth with bitterness. But I couldn't say it. In fact, Qin Ming directly used his divine mind to observe. It doesn't matter if you don't look at it, he is even more angry and wants to hit someone. Yang Qianqin is actually teaching two girls to broadcast gymnastics. You shouldn't have called this woman back then. Qin Ming only felt that he suffered a huge loss, and it was the kind of bleeding loss. The several demon kings and demon kings in the store are also different. To be reasonable, they are all old monsters who have lived for hundreds of years. Why does the boss not let them come forward with regard to combat experience? Besides, isn't your big boss's combat experience enough to give pointers? Of course, they categorically did not dare to ask about this. In their opinion, it was tantamount to seeking death. Are you going to teach big guys to do things? Tired of life and crooked? One night, for 3 hours, after Yang Qianqin finished the extracurricular course, he walked out of the yard with ease with clapping hands and full face. He slipped away without even saying hello to Qin Ming. Such behavior, falling in the eyes of Qin Ming, even more proved that Yang Qianqin had a guilty conscience. At the thought of this, Qin Ming trembled with anger. He couldn't help but put the blackboard with Yang Qianqin and dogs not allowed at the door. In the end, let it go. After all, rhubarb is a dog. In doing so, I may not know what rhubarb has any opinions. Then Qin Ming found Xiao Nianzhu. How about this coach that your brother found for you? Qin Ming narrowed his face, MMP in his heart. Today, as long as Xiao Nianzhu says no, he will decisively expel Yang Qianqin and do not hire him. However, what Qin Ming didn't even expect was that Xiao Nianzhu, who was flushed with red face, nodded vigorously. Brother, Yang Big Sis is amazing. The things she taught us are very useful. The corners of Qin Ming's mouth twitched. When will radio gymnastics be useful? He swears that there is absolutely no mistake under the spirit of mind, that is, broadcast gymnastics, and he can tell which set. All right, if you girl thinks it's okay, then it's okay. But the pet sister Guangmo was not just talking about fun. Xiao Nianzhu had no objection, and it didn't matter how upset Qin Ming was. Hurry up and take a bath and have a good rest, and strive to have a place in the national competition, so that we can win the honor of our old Qin family. At night, after Xiao Nianzhu fell asleep, Qin Ming appeared beside her bed. With a casual move, a black and white phantom was directly pulled into his guardian spirit space. The kitten once again bought a lot of wild behemoths, and his body kept trembling. What's the situation today? Tell me every word. Qin Ming leaned against the gate of the ghost, looking like the ultimate villain in the movie. The kitty said with a trembling voice what had happened today. During the period, it included what it said to Nianzhu, even every word of his opponent Chu Jingyao, and even his expressions. Upon hearing this, Qin Ming frowned slightly. Suddenly the kitty's body trembled, 2 ears pressed against his head, and 2 front paws covered his head. It's over, it's all over. This time it's dead. That's it, Qin Ming said suddenly. Why didn't you use too much effort to kill that pretender? What? The little cat raised her eyelids, her face in a daze. Next time you meet this product, don't talk nonsense, just hit your mouth. Qin Ming coldly snorted, knock off all his teeth with a rotten mouth. Grandmas, how can you pretend to be so forceful? The kitty was stunned for a while, with a face full of disbelief. However, Qin Ming didn't pay much attention to it. With a wave of his hand, a huge eyeball appeared in front of the kitten. Hey, Little Sheik, I'll give you Ascension a little bit more strength. Do not. The kitten struggled symbolically, then blushed and lay on the ground in large print. That means, how do you like it? It was another night of torture, and the little cat returned to Nianzhu's guardian spirit space 2 hours later. This time there was not much ascension, but it was to force ascension to become a god. The most is to completely arouse the white tiger blood in the kitty's body, and to completely arouse the brutal force of killing. As the guardian spirit of Xiao Nianzhu, when fighting, Xiao Nianzhu will also be affected by the thought of killing and will become more decisive. Qin Ming knows a truth. Strike's iron also needs to be hard by oneself, and this world the weak are prey to the strong. Nianzhu's heart is too soft, and sometimes, this is not a good thing. It's another beautiful morning. Xiao Nianzhu rubbed her eyes sleepily, got up, rinsed, had breakfast, and went to school as usual. Because of the national competition, the students of the Guardian College of Tokai University are all competing. Today is the time for the first grade to be allocated places. Chu Jingyao's injury has completely recovered. Although it seems that there is no problem now, the scene of being beaten on the ground yesterday can be described as vivid. His eyes had been staring at Qin Nianzhu in the crowd, and there was only one thought in his mind. Get the place back. It's a shame. Chu Jingyao vowed not to be a man without revenge. Because the resentment in her eyes is too strong, it is difficult for Nianzhu girl to feel it. She just glanced at it, and when she found that it was Chu Jingyao, she immediately turned her head and leaned in Su Qingyuan's ear to say something. Afterwards, the two women looked back again, looking at Chu Jingyao as if they were looking at a mental patient. Chu Jingyao. Well, after 2 days of competition, the top 10 of this freshman contest has been selected. Next, is the final place competition. Chapter 81. As the elegant and easygoing Dean Li Gengyi's voice fell, 10 students who had been notified stood in the ring. Because one of our freshman students has a special situation this year, the number of freshmen has changed from 5 to 6. Li Gengyi said calmly. Stu Qingyuan made an exception and admitted directly. The entire Guardian Academy is a freshman year, and even the entire academy knows Su Qingyuan. Just awakened as the god of war guardian spirit. When the transfer school came in, there was a lot of trouble. No one has any doubts about her being able to make an exceptional admission. If she can't even represent the school to participate in the competition, it would be really shameful. At this time, 10 qualifiers were already standing on the edge of the ring. Everyone will get a number plate, so they can choose at any time. The top 5 winners can become representatives of the school, and because they are freshmen, they will all receive emergency training before the next day to participate in the national competition. Referred to as devil training. As for the number of devils, it is unknown. Let's say that Xiao Nianzhu drew the number 6 and her contestant was number 10, a burly boy. I have to say that the luck of Nianzhu girl is not very good. The 2 matches were opponents who seemed invincible. But after experiencing the scene where Chu Jingyao was pressed and rubbed on the ground yesterday, no one would look down upon Nianzhu. There are even many people who have established a support group for Nianzhu. Su Qingyuan, this girl is honored to become the head of the support group. Nianzhu, come on, goddess, you can do it. Beat that idiot and win honor for the school. The chaotic voice of support came, causing Xiaonian Shui's roots to turn red. Start. As the teacher's voice fell, the 5-arena competition began. Xiao Nianzhu's opponent was obviously panicking because of yesterday's events. At this time, he was standing solemnly in the corner of the ring, with his hands in front of him. She looked serious, as if Nianzhu was the ultimate boss. Hit him, just hit him to death. The weak voice of the guardian spirit kitty sounded in her mind, and Nianzhu was slightly startled. There is no need to fight to death, right? Then you have to do your best. After yesterday, Kitty no longer dared to talk nonsense. If she accidentally turns on Nianzhu's little universe, the consequences will be very serious. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Nianzhu looked at his opponent with the same expression. In her mind as Yang Qianshen's instructions to her last night. Afterwards, Nianzhu calmed down and stared at the opponent's feet tightly. Once the other party moves, she will make corresponding countermeasures. However, the opponent on the stage didn't intend to attack, so he hugged his head and hid in the corner. Suddenly, the scene was very embarrassing. Ahem, 2 classmates, time is limited, so don't waste time. The teacher in the audience coughed dryly. Xiao Nianzhu waited for more than 10 seconds, but the opponent didn't have the slightest intention to do anything. She had no choice but to bite the bullet and step forward. What? It was still a straight punch. Upon seeing this, the burly boy's two forearms in front of him exerted force and the muscles bulged, ready to resist the punch. However, what he didn't expect was that he vomited blood with this punch. Because it was a corner problem, the impact after a punch was too strong, he didn't have room to unload his force, and his body flew upside down and hit the stand. Puff! The burly boy's eyes widened, and a mouthful of blood came out. Seeing this scene, Xiao Nianzhu panicked and hurried forward. Classmate, are you okay? I didn't mean it. But this time, the kind-hearted Nianzhu obviously met a sinister villain. Taking advantage of the opportunity that Nianzhu was full of flaws, the burly boy slammed his fist at Nianzhu's shoulder. Brush! Nianzhu's advancing body suddenly dodged the attack by a ghost, and then it was a set of serial palms subconsciously. Bang 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 bang. Every palm fell on the chest of the burly boy, and the speed was so fast that it was jaw-dropping. In the blink of an eye, the burly boy, with hollow eyes, fell straight on the ring. At this time, the boy wanted to cry. He realized Chu Jingyao's personal experience yesterday. Pain. It hurts so much. The bones all over his body seemed to fall apart. Isn't the script written like this? Shouldn't it be that he succeeded in a sneak attack, then immediately gained the upper hand, and then successfully defeated Xiao Nianzhu with a ****** attack? It happened suddenly, and no one expected it. Even Nianzhu herself didn't expect this to be the case. The two teachers in the audience were stunned for a moment, and rushed forward with lightning speed. Just lift it away. I didn't mean it. Xiao Nianzhu was full of guilt. Looking at her like this, several teachers didn't know what to say. If it weren't the astonishment on Nianzhu's face that was too real, they all felt that the girl's city was extremely deep. But this is not a problem. To blame the student for being so dying and attacking while others are concerned about you. Is this all right? A perfect interpretation of what is meant by stealing chicken and not losing rice. Then Xiao Nianzhu got the top 5 places in a dazed expression, and immediately started the devil training. One of them is Su Qingyuan. In a huge and empty classroom, 6 students stood in a row, and 3 teachers stood in front of them. Classmates, the next step is the devil training that lasted for nearly half a month. Because you are all freshmen and don't understand your basic situation. In this way, those who have undergone specific training before have a look. Swipe. Everyone raised their hands. The 3 teachers nodded secretly, thinking about it. They can become the top 5 of the 700, and it is impossible to say that they have not received training. In this case, they will also prepare a different training system. As a guardian, there is no need to say much about physical fitness, and realm is also the basis for showing strength. But it is impossible to want ascension realm in a short period of time, so the 3 teachers did not develop from this direction, but planned to conduct an ascension of fighting skills for the 6. Compared with these 3 teachers, Xiao Nianzhu quickly discovered that Yang Qianqin was instructing combat consciousness. Although they all have the fighting instinct of the guardian spirit as the foundation, many things still need to be integrated. Just relying on instinct is simply not enough. Therefore, if you want to become a guardian who can protect mankind, you need to go through many tests and trials during this period. The devil training officially begins. In the dense forest on the outskirts of Donghai City, 3 figures appeared on the top of a mountain. The head is the god of anger. You two, how are you preparing? Beside the angry god, there were 2 more burly men standing, and they could tell by looking at their breath that they were Yaozu. The muscles of the 2 demon kings exploded, as strong as steel bars, with a sense of strength. Have you united the surrounding low-level evil spirits? A strong monster clan raised his eyebrows. Angrily nodded. It's already about 80%, how about you? The fierce beasts have already assembled the comparison. Counting your evil spirits, this time there are 30,000 soldiers and horses on both sides. The monster clan snorted. I don't believe it, this time I can't attack the broken city. The demons and demons are both different species. They are not races in this world. They appeared because of some special reasons. And these 2 races have one thing in common, they like to eat humans. The demons need human souls, while the demons simply like to enslave humans, which is derived from the blood. There are not many human powers in this world. Although they have not reached the peak of their strength, it doesn't matter. Can still crush humans. The anger god. These guys woke up from the seal, they were already on fire, and there happened to be an East Sea city nearby. In the city, the souls and flesh and blood of millions of human beings are the best tonic. They have long wanted to eat the entire East Sea city, so that they can recover their strength faster. Of course, more of it is to declare the majesty of belonging to the two races. By the way, god of anger, don't you have a partner, that guy with white hair? Why haven't you seen him recently? A demon king asked curiously. Angrily shook his head. I haven't seen you in a few days. I don't know where to hide to recuperate. It's okay, I can get in touch at that time. What about you? Didn't you say that a dog monster would break the seal? The demon king shrugged. The ghost knows what's going on with the dog, and he has already broken the seal, but he doesn't come to us. Can you get in touch? Anger raised his eyebrows. The demon king nodded and said, naturally it is possible. Now there are more masters in Donghai City, and the human race will still have support. At this time, it would be better to have more help. As long as several masters of human beings are dragged, the combination of beast-tide and evil spirits can instantly smash the defenses of those guardians, and it will only be a matter of time before they can break the East Sea City. Even if it fails, it will cause huge losses to East Sea City. The surrounding fierce beasts and evil spirits are not only so small. Both of them have just convened a small area. There are too many people and it is too chaotic. At that time, reorganize a wave of charges, completely able to win the East Sea City. That's it, you can gather the separated personnel. 2 days later, the attack will be launched on time. As the Demon King said, his figure disappeared in a flash. In the evening, Nianzhu dragged their tired bodies back to the hotel. It really deserves to be the devil training, and they have no strength at all. Seeing Xiao Nianzhu's tired face, Qinming felt distressed for a while, serving tea and pouring water. Rhubarb also gave full play to the role of the dog, lying on Nianzhu's feet, allowing the other party to ravage the hair on his head. Since then, the spirit has finally recovered a little. Da da da. The sound of high heels stepping on the ground sounded, and a beautiful figure walked into the store. Qinming, just like yesterday, hurry up and prepare. I'm starving to death. As soon as Yang Qianqin entered the door, she sat on the sofa bench, rubbing her ankles with her hands. Which fool invented the high heels? Qinming glared at the woman, but finally he could only sigh. If it wasn't that he couldn't let Huo Qingqing and others be exposed in front of Nianzhu, why let this woman help? It was like he put himself in front of the pig killer, and then said something. You can kill me. An hour later, the table was filled with corpses of spare ribs. Yang Qianqin clapped his hands with satisfaction, and took the two girls to the backyard for training. Naturally, Qinming had to observe, and found that it was still Guangpo gymnastics, and his head burst in anger. On the other side, near the counter, Huo Qingqing gathered together and kept pointing. Yang Qianqin, this unreliable woman, he really paid the wrong way. What are you discussing? Qinming leaned forward with a sullen face. Huo Qingqing laughed and said, it's nothing, I gave Yang Qianqin a nickname. Oh, tell me about it. Qinming came with interest. The rib killer. Puff ha ha ha, okay, this description is quite good. Qinming was still smiling at first, but after receiving it, he gritted his teeth. Good guys are simply hateful, eat more today than yesterday. He just feels that the speed at which his wallet dries up is quite exaggerated. No one used it, so he could only pinch his nose to suffer a dark loss. Qinming didn't feel so beautiful all night. After closing his stall, he went to sleep and didn't care about anything. At night, the breeze blew, and the cherry trees in the yard made a brushing sound, which was very pleasing to the ears. Rhubarb was lying on his back under a cherry blossom tree, and the dog's eyes were staring at the branches of the sacred tree of chaos. The more you look at it this way, the more it can't help but want to take a bite. It believes that this bite is definitely the essence of the blockbuster. Thinking about it, the saliva flowed down unconvincingly. Brush. A figure appeared beside Rhubarb, it was white hair. At this time, Bai Mao's face was full of solemnity. If you don't sleep well at night, what's your nerve? Rhubarb snorted coldly. It is really uncomfortable to imagine that the good time of eating leaves is interrupted by someone. A demon king contacted me. He wants to attack East China Sea City aggressively. Beimao raised his eyebrows. Rhubarb also frowned. Before waiting for him to speak, the dog's body trembled, and the expression in the eyes of Beimao changed instantly. I also have a demon king contacting me here. Also attacking East Sea City. Just looking for death. Beimao snorted coldly. If it was a few days ago, he might think about it, but after all, he could not agree. After all, he knew that there was an invincible boss in East Sea City. But now, good guy, he has a new understanding of the terrifying power of the boss. Not to mention anything else, just the divine armament in the living room is enough to block the tide of beasts and evil spirits. The power of the Excalibur is beyond words. But just relying on its autonomous consciousness, it can easily kill all the fierce beasts in seconds, which is enough to prove that Qin Ming is a powerful man. So I'm looking for death. To persuade. Rhubarb raised his eyebrows. Beimao nodded. This is natural. I can't persuade you. Don't blame us for not explaining it in advance. Then one person and one dog disappeared in the yard in an instant. The dense forest on the outskirts of Donghai City. The god of anger looked at Beimao in shock. What happened to your heavenly stems? How terrible is your strength restored? You have almost half of your peak strength. You must know that he has been rushing around the past few days, constantly searching for heavenly and mortal treasures, and devouring powerful evil spirits, only to recover less than 1/10 of his strength. I went to a good place. This time I want to tell you, don't have any more ideas about East Sea City. Beimao's expression was indifferent. Donghai City is not something you can eat. Be careful not to die. Angrily frowned. What do you mean by that? Although we have not known each other for a long time, don't treat me as a fool. Beimao sneered. You're not just a fool. How many times have I warned you about leaving East Sea City, but you wouldn't listen. Now I want to attack Donghai City in a big way, it's almost dead. Now you have a chance to survive, or you can blame me for being ruthless. Beimao snorted coldly. In fact, he was ready this time when he came over. If the angry god is not willing to get out, he will kill the opponent directly. Not to mention these people attacking East Sea City, the final result is death. Such behavior alone may anger the big man Qin Ming. Once the big man got angry, Beimao himself was also to blame for this incident. After all, Beimao knew the news, but he did not tell Qin Ming directly. In this way, Beimao will also die. After finally having such great benefits, how could Beimao give up? Hearing his words, his brow furrowed in anger, and his aura continued to rise. Do you really think you can do whatever you want with Ascension? Angrily snorted. White Mao, let me tell you the truth, your lord will be able to arrive successfully in less than a month. You are helping the adults lay the foundation now, that is a great achievement. If you have to be obsessed with your own death, the day the adults come, it will be your death date. Ridiculous. Beimao sneered. The lord in your mouth, in my opinion, is just a slightly tougher rubbish. Asshole thing, you are bold. Anger god's eyes widened. If he couldn't beat Beimao now, he was afraid that he would do it directly. I don't have the mind to talk nonsense with you. I will ask you one last time, get out, or not get out. Baimao's face was cold. His 17 or 18-year-old face exploded with an aura that made his anger feel palpitation. I'll ask you again, it's still too late to regret now. So, do you want to die now? White Mao asked coldly. The angry god was full of contempt. Although you have recovered a lot of strength, can you really keep me? Try it, don't you know? The corner of Baimao's mouth raised a cold smile. At this moment, he was no longer the harmless waiter. At this time, the white hair was surrounded by black energy, like a demon. Anger knew that he was not Baimao's opponent, so he snorted and tried to flee, but something unexpected happened to him. Beimao stretched out his hand in the air. A strong black aura immediately enveloped the god of anger, and bursts of white smoke appeared on the surface of the god of anger. Ah, you Beimao, do you dare to do it to me? Anger god said furiously. Ha, the one who disturbs the adults, the purifier, die. Baimao's icy voice came from Juyu, and then he squeezed his palms tightly. This is also the last sentence heard by god of anger. In the next second, he was directly squeezed and exploded by the volley, and then turned into a black mist and swallowed into his mouth by white hair. With a long sigh of relief, Beiming clenched his fists, and made a crackling sound like fried beans. The strength has recovered a lot again, and now he is only 1/3 away, and he will be able to reach the heyday before the seal. With a wave of his hand, the surrounding black air disappeared instantly. Beiming adjusted his own expression, showing a smile like a sunny boy. Well, it's another harmless waiter. On the other side, almost the same scene is happening. Under the paws of the big yellow dog, a corpse that had been broken in half was stepped on. Opposite him, a strong man with only one hand left, was staring at the big yellow. Why do you think you are? The dog master gave you a chance, why don't you cherish it? Rhubarb shook his head and sighed. For the sake of the previous, you can judge yourself. Huntian Demon King, are you really going to fight that one? The Demon King on the opposite side roared unwillingly. Hey, I'm sorry, the Huntian Demon King is dead, and now there is only the dog Rhubarb. Rhubarb shook his head, a fierce touch flashed under his eyes. You, go to hell. The next moment the yellow lightning flashed through the forest, and within 2 seconds, a corpse appeared under the big yellow dog's paws. It shook its head, not taking this matter to heart. It can be said that from the moment the seal was broken, he and these guys had nothing to do with each other. Besides, before, I only worked as a horse under the same big man. Although they have been friends for hundreds of years, they are not so reliable. The gold content of his horse now is many times more than before. With a random wave of the dog's paw, a black flame burned the corpse on the ground. Rhubarb hummed a song and slowly returned to the yard. Continuing to lie under the cherry tree, the two dogs looked at the chaotic sacred tree ahead with piercing eyes. Early in the morning, the sun shines. The residents of Donghai City didn't know that the culprits who caused a huge wave of beasts were already dead and couldn't die again. Everyone still lived a simple and leisurely life. It's like a bald Li who doesn't have a hair on his head and has to get up early to deliver the goods. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, Li Bald, who had delivered the goods, was slowly wandering around Beiming Street while biting a cigarette. The small truck swayed slightly and passed a street intersection. Then, Bald Li turned the car around again and drove directly into this street. He will never forget in his life that there is a man who made him lose everything on this street. Although Qin Ming was doing well, he opened a restaurant. But Li Baldo was not jealous in his heart. On the contrary, this guy was very gloating. That woman in the shop is an evil spirit. For so many days in the past, that fellow Qin Ming has already been sucked up. Thinking of the revenge, Li Baldo couldn't help feeling triumphant. That guy, he should be completely dead, right? With a cigarette in his mouth, Li Bald slowly drove towards the Shenling Hotel, but within a few seconds he came to the hotel. By coincidence, he saw Qin Ming, who was also smoking at the door. Li was bald and dumbfounded. Impossible, why are you still alive? Li Bald subconsciously exclaimed. Qin Ming frowned. I said, Li Bald, what is the deep hatred between me and you cursed me to death. You, are you a man or a ghost? Li Bald even felt a little delirious. Qin Ming was even more puzzled. This guy had water in his head, so he came to do things early in the morning. Unbearable, no need to bear. Rhubarb, come on. As Qin Ming's voice fell, a yellow figure rushed out from a corner. It is the best player at the gatekeeper, and so is Rhubarb. Seeing Qin Ming actually let a dog bite someone, Li Bald became furious. But before he could speak, Da Huang suddenly grinned, and an invisible idea invaded Li Baldu's mind. Li Bald only felt that he saw the underworld three-headed dog rushing towards him. In an instant, the whole person was stupid. There are monsters. With a miserable howl, Li Bald stepped on the accelerator, and the pickup truck swayed straight into the sky. After driving frantically to a crowded place, Li Baldo was able to stabilize the emotion that was about to collapse in his heart. God knows what he went through. First experienced the torture of Huo Qingqing, just now, he was bullied by Rhubarb. If Li Bald wrote the two encounters of Own into a book, it would be a big fire, it would be so fantastic. After smoking half a pack of cigarettes, Li Baldo completely calmed down from panic. His first reaction was to turn on the light brain and dial the phone number of the Guardian Bureau. Hello, Donghai City Guarding Bureau, have you encountered any danger? The sweet voice of the operator made Li Baldu's heart more stable. I want to report that there are monsters in a place called Shinling Restaurant on Hyaming Street. What? The operator girl was obviously dumbfounded. Are there monsters? Is this something, a mixture of evil spirits and beasts? There is no such thing in the records of the guarding bureau. Hello, can you describe it carefully? Lee bawled, startled, and then began to think about his own experience. First of all, there is a cannibal devil in that store. It's really devil. I was almost eaten that day. Lee Baldo thought about it, and said, she's very beautiful, but she's scorpion-hearted. Also, there is a dog in the restaurant with 3 heads, one is more cruel than the other. What do you do for the Guardian Bureau? There are such ferocious evil spirits and beasts in Hyaming Street, and you don't care about it. The operator girl frowned and her face was not angry. Sir, if you really encounter a fierce beast, we will take action as soon as possible, but don't make fun of us. Hyaming Street is now a model street in East China Sea. There is not a trace of evil spirits infested, and the guardian responsible for patrolling the area is the star guardian of our Guardian Bureau, known as the Master of the Bull Sword God. If there are evil spirits and beasts infested, the Bull Sword God will definitely get rid of them immediately. The more she said it, the more angry this operator girl became. First of all, no one knows how fierce Niujunda is now in the entire Guardian Bureau. That's when you meet the gods to kill the gods and the Buddhas to kill the Buddhas, and even at the time of bronze rank, you have more and more beheaded the evil spirits of the warlord rank. And such a record more than once. Now it is the top combat power in the Guardian Warlord Guardian echelon. With him, what can be the problem with Hyaming Street? Forget it, this girl also knows the Shinling Hotel that Lee Baldo said, and she also went to dinner with Niujunda. Not to mention the delicious taste, Niujunda is an iron buddy with the restaurant owner. Go to the restaurant at least twice a day. Are you telling me that there are evil spirits in the Shinling Hotel? You are making trouble with me. Sir, please don't be kidding me. On the phone, Niujunda was stupid, but there are really evil spirits. Quote. Are you sure there are evil spirits? The operator girl raised her eyebrows. Definitely, I use my life as a guarantee. Well, sir, I will respond to the situation on the spot, and there will be a guardian in 5 minutes. Hang up the phone. Although the operator girl is very disbelieved in her heart, she has her own mission. Whenever you encounter a call for help, you must respond. The girl kept this in mind and recited it 3 times a day, just to find a chance to say this sentence and write it into the genealogy. Moreover, the girl is Niujunda's little fan. She even regards Niujunda as a benchmark. Niujunda keeps her mission so firmly in mind, how dare she disobey? The news is reflected right now. Ouyang Yanyan sighed while sitting in the office, frowning her brows. Devil, it's doing something again. Sure enough, I shouldn't believe you. No, I should have mobilized a master to kill you as soon as possible. Feeling that the strong man was about to vomit blood, Ouyang Yanyan directly contacted Niujunda and asked Yang Qianchen to go with him. In any case, we must investigate the reason. Ouyang Yanyan felt big when she thought of the Shinling Hotel. This place is simply a cancer of Donghai City. Not long after, inside the Shinling Hotel. Old Chin, someone just reported that there are evil spirits here, are you okay? The old Niu rushed in a hurry, his expression full of anxiety. Qin Ming is his only brother Niujunda at present. If something happens, what should he do? How should he face the old folks? At the moment Niujunda couldn't help but rushed into the counter and grabbed Qin Ming for a while. Qin Ming slapped the head with a black thread. You're crazy to punish evil and eliminate evil. If there are evil spirits in my shop, can I still live? Can you still see me? Qin Ming didn't have a good air. Niujunda smirked. It's okay to be okay, scare me to death. At this moment, Yang Qianchen walked in with a black face. Seeing Yang Qianchen, Niujunda hurriedly stood upright. Report to Captain Yang that everything is normal in the hotel and no evil spirits have been found. Yang Qianchen nodded helplessly, and then gave Niujunda the goods. Then, she stared at Qin Ming. Qin Ming also squinted at Yang Qianchen. The temperature in the hotel slowly dropped for a while. Forget it, it's useless to tell you about it. Yang Qianchen sighed. Qin was obviously under control. What could she ask? Now she stepped into the back kitchen. Huo Qingqing and Huo Shusho and sisters were humming a little song, cutting a tuft of bright red tomatoes with a kitchen knife in their hands. You two, finally let me grab the handle, right? A ferocious smile appeared on Yang Qianshen's face. In broad daylight, the world is bright, how dare you openly harm people? Are you talking fart? Huo Qingqing looked disgusted. Big sister, don't do it right. I have already cut tomatoes all morning today. Where can I go out to harm people? Besides, I've changed my evil spirits to righteousness, why don't you believe me? Ha, still dare to quibble. Yang Qianshen snorted coldly. Personal evidence is gathered here, what else do you have to say? Now I will replace the millions of residents in Donghai City and destroy you. Huo Qingqing hugged his arms and looked jokingly. You did it, can you beat me? Yang Qianshen was taken aback for a moment, and his expression fell into embarrassment. Ah, don't care about these details, but you really hurt people. There are two paths before you now, either die or get out of East Sea City. Huo Qingqing chose to ignore Yang Qianshen's righteous words, turning around and continuing to cut tomatoes. The scarlet juice splashed, with one knife, as if slashing on Yang Qianshen's heart. Let's talk about it when you find someone who can beat me, stop making trouble, go back quickly, be good. Being so ignored, Yang Qianshen was really uncomfortable. But she can't help it. For a time, Yang Qianshen felt bitter. Why should all such difficult things be left to her to deal with? The interrogation in the back kitchen is deadlocked. Huo Qingqing relied on his strength to ignore Yang Qianshen. The angry Yang Qianshen's head was buzzing with melon seeds. In desperation, she could only walk out of the back kitchen. It happened that the line of sight fell on the door, where a dead dog was lying on it, basking in the sun. Ouyang Yanyan told her before that in the entire hotel, except for Chen Gui, brother and sister Qinming, and Su Qingyuan who did odd jobs, the rest were not human. Especially that dog is also a powerful demon king. At the same time, Yang Qianshen thought of the testimony of the report call, in which he mentioned a vicious dog with 3 heads. I think it should be this guy. Right now, Yang Qianshen walked to the door with a cold face and looked at it condescendingly while blocking the rhubarb from the sun. Just now, you killed someone, right? Rhubarb. It's so pitiful, it hasn't eaten anyone since the breakthrough seal, let alone harm people. Is this lady's brain flooded? This girl asks you something, don't pretend to be silly, I know you are not human. Rhubarb. That's awesome, you can see that Lord Go is not a human being. Seeing the expression on Rhubarb's face, Yang Qianshen realized that there was a huge contradiction in what he said, and immediately glared at Rhubarb. Get up and tell me honestly what's going on. While talking, Yang Qianshen stretched out her foot and kicked Rhubarb's butt. Rhubarb has entered the sage mode at this time. Without paying any attention to it at all, its heart is very peaceful now. No matter what Yang Qianshen said, it didn't make any movements, just thinking about being in the sun safely. Wait, where's the sunshine from Lord Dog? Rhubarb opened his eyes abruptly, and saw Yang Qianshen looking at her backlit, like that, a bit like a black hand behind the scenes. Rolling his eyes, Rhubarb did not say a word. But the meaning is obvious. My daughter, get out, don't block the dog from basking in the sun. Single quote. Yang Qianshen was dazed. She was just despised by a dog. Immediately made her crazy. How strong are you? You are also the Demon King registered and focused on by the Guardian Bureau, and you are the key to eradicate. Give me a face anyway. Yang Qianshen pointed to Rhubarb's dog nose. Give you one last chance, otherwise don't blame me for being polite. Rhubarb still did not respond. At this moment, passing by a pair of mother and daughter, the two of them looked at Yang Qianshen as if they were looking at a mentally retarded person. The woman kept shaking her head, just listening to the muttering in her mouth. Hey, what a beautiful girl, how can she be stupid, how can she respond when she speaks to a dog? The mother and daughter gradually moved away, but Yang Qianshen was petrified in place, unable to return to his senses for a long time. Rhubarb lifted his eyelids and glanced at Yang Qianshen provocatively. Yang Qianshen frowned and stretched out his hand to cover his heart. She felt a little pain in her heart. Rhubarb, don't block the way at the door, go and lie elsewhere by yourself. At this time, Qinming's voice came from the store. Then Yang Qianshen saw the Rhubarb slouch and stood up, and then slowly walked to the position beside the gate like an old dog. Lie down, close your eyes, and do it in one go. At that moment, Yang Qianchen felt a burst of crackling sounds coming from her ear. That is her pride. In an instant she only felt a little sweet in her throat, and she swallowed the blood that was about to squirt, and Yang Qianchen's face was full of grief and anger. She is also a god of war class powerhouse anyway. This dog doesn't give a face at all, so forget it. Why Qinming, an ordinary person, will give you feedback right away. Yang Qianchen began to wonder whether his own strength was really that strong. In the end, she didn't see what she said, so she walked towards the corner of the street in despair. Beimao walked out of the shop to breathe. Seeing this scene, he glanced at the dead dog Rhubarb lying on the ground. Look at what I am doing. This lady is autistic by herself. It has nothing to do with me. I didn't say a word during the whole process. Da Huang said lazily. Beimao shook his head. You said you, Yang Qianchen, have to have trouble with a dog. Can you be more dogged than it? Yang Qianchen, who returned to the Guardian Bureau, closed himself up directly and ended up autistic. She sat sluggishly in the office, constantly thinking about life. Why is she despised by a dog? Boom. The office door was pushed open, and Ouyang Yanyan hurried in. What's going on over there? Have you tried out the conspiracy of the demon girl? Yang Qianchen, let me ask you something. What's wrong with you? Ouyang Yanyan was surprised. How did this girl become like this? With a dull look, could it be that she was given to by several demon kings? At that moment, Ouyang Yanyan locked the door, and then carefully walked towards Yang Qianchen, wanting to check the situation. At this time, Yang Qianchen suddenly recovered and saw Ouyang Yanyan sneaky. Suddenly, she stretched out her hand to cover her chest. What are you going to do? Upon seeing this, Ouyang Yanyan gritted her teeth, her face full of grief and anger. Stone hammer. These beasts dare to do such a thing in broad daylight. Qianchen, don't be afraid. Even if Big Sister dies today, he still has to ask you for justice. I am going to slaughter those beasts. Ouyang Yanyan roared and was about to rush out. Yang Qianchen was dumbfounded. Big Sister, what are you doing? Who are you going to kill? Ouyang Yanyan took a deep breath, holding back the grief and anger in her heart. She knew that at this time, she must not touch Yang Qianchen's taboo. Not only that, but she must also be careful when speaking. After that kind of thing, the second injury is the most desperate. At the moment, Ouyang Yanyan forced a comforting smile on her face. Qianchen, don't be afraid. Big Sister is here. Don't worry, I won't let go of those bad guys. Yang Qianchen was even more stunned. Ouyang, Big Sister, you don't have a fever, are you talking nonsense? I know, you must be very uncomfortable now. Before Ouyang Yanyan could finish speaking, Yang Qianchen sighed. Hey, it's really uncomfortable, and it's a panic. Don't be afraid, Sister is here. Oh, it's okay. It's just being despised by a dog. Let me be autistic for a while. Yang Qianchen waved his hand casually. Upon hearing this, Ouyang Yanyan was stunned. Yes, because of this. Yeah, you don't know how much that dog owes you. Wait, Big Sister, what's the look in your eyes? Hey, don't come over. After half a night, Yang Qianchen tidied up her messy hair and wrinkled clothes, and her face was flushed. You girl, I thought those demon kings took you, they. Yang Qianchen blushed. What? It's nothing, you girl, I'm so angry. Ouyang Yanyan waved her hand and rushed out of the office, but not long after she walked out, she suddenly stomped her feet in anger. I forgot about business. Rushing back to the office again, Ouyang Yanyan directly asked her details. Yang Qianchen also reported truthfully. Everything is normal. Normal to look too abnormal. Huo Qingqing, that demon girl really treats herself as a cook. She actually chopped tomatoes from the morning, and the dead dog that was not there was also annoying, and she didn't respond to talking to it for a long time. Yang Qianchen was full of annoyance. How can I investigate this? It's a headache for me. Ouyang Yanyan narrowed her eyes. Logically speaking, if something goes wrong, there must be a demon. There are so many demon kings and demon kings assembled in this hotel, and almost every one of them must reach the emperor level. The power of a restaurant is almost equal to that of the headquarters of the Guardian Bureau. As a result, these guys are actually immersed in role-playing. The cook, Ouyang Yanyan frowned. I really don't believe it, I can't hold your handle. At present, there is no way to protect the bureau in the situation of the Shenling Hotel. Huo Qingqing just exuded a breath last time, which made Ouyang Yanyan feel a palpitation, enough to see how strong the opponent is. At least 2 emperors are required to deal with it. Then there is Huo Shusho. This guy seems to be mentally retarded, but the strength is not low. There are also Beimao and the dead dog. These 2 guys are at least emperor level in strength. There are only a few imperial masters in the country of China. In addition to being in some high-risk areas, they have to run around the country to deal with troubles. There is not enough manpower. Therefore, there is no way to deal with the problem as soon as the problem is discovered. Forget it, the demon kings and demon kings in the restaurant are now immersed in role-playing and unable to extricate themselves. An emperor-level demon likes to be a cook. Who will believe this? But that's the problem. They really were too safe and didn't do anything excessive. Even if someone reported the evil spirits in the hotel today, they didn't have any substantial losses. This is where Ouyang Yanyan has a headache. Now the Guardian Bureau headquarters is said to have asked an old guy to help out, and the strength is a god-level existence. But that old guy has his own responsibility, so naturally he won't come over to confront the demon kings for some illusory things. So the only way to get rid of these guys is to find clues to their layout and then expose the conspiracy. Then came the honest punishment and elimination of evil. You have been working as an instructor at the hotel these days, have you noticed? Ouyang Yanyan thought for a while and asked, tell me all the information you have collected. Yang Qianchen narrowed his eyes. Don't tell me, there is no clue. The chef cooks and cooks every day, and the guy with the white hair on his head really treats himself as a waiter, either sweeping the floor or wiping the table, and the guests smile more softly and sunny than anyone else. The dog is sleeping at the door all day long. Judging from the information collected so far, they must be planning something secretly, but they don't know what it is. Ouyang Yanyan's face was green and she slapped the table sharply. Doesn't you mean nothing to say? Hee, I can't beat them, I don't dare to mess around. Big sister, what if your lovely Qianchen dies there? Ouyang Yanyan was speechless. She didn't want to talk to Yang Qianchen anymore. At night, I will go with you. At dusk. At this time, the business in the store was pretty good. There was a table of 7 or 8 customers who admired the delicious food while eating. This scene fell in Chen Gui's eyes, and it was an envy. It is said that the new chef has now inherited Qin Ming's 70% craftsmanship, and only 70% has made these diners linger. Before that, Chen Gui was born with mud legs and always thought that he was a coolie. I never thought that one day I could sit in a restaurant and do business leisurely. And now, since he came into contact with the culinary art, Chen Gui has started to change. He found that he really likes to cook, especially after he finishes cooking. The sense of accomplishment in his heart is recognized by others, but money can't be filled. Mingzi, otherwise, would you teach me how to cook again? Chen Gui suddenly looked at Qin Ming. Qin Ming, who was holding a glass of water, almost choked to death on the spot. Continue to teach Chen Gui's cooking skills. He wants to live a few more years. Brother Gui, it's not that I don't want to teach you, it's really useless. Qin Ming smiled bitterly. It's not that Chen Gui is unwilling to learn, and he is also very serious about it. After Qin Ming demonstrates it, he can remember it. But here is the problem. Obviously, I remembered all the steps in the last second, but when I did it myself in the next second, it became a mess. Either forgetting to put the oil before cooking, or something wrong with the order of placing. The simplest scrambled eggs with tomatoes, put the tomatoes first and then the egg mixture directly. Who can stand it? The scrambled eggs looked like a tuft of indescribable objects, glued to large chunks of tomatoes. This is just a small problem. The biggest problem is that Chen Gui couldn't control his shaking hands when putting the seasoning. Especially he is very fond of salt. A bowl of dishes can eat a pot of rice for 10 people. One word is salty enough. Hey, don't I have anything to do with cooking in this life? Chen Gui sighed. The meals he made by himself cannot be recognized by others, which is a huge blow to him who is obsessed with cooking. At this time, Niu Junda walked in after get off work. He didn't wear that red robe, he was full of spring breeze, and sat down in front of the counter. Chen Gui suddenly lit up when he saw Niu Junda. If you want to ask Chen Gui what the picture is that you will never forget in this life, it must be the day when Niu Junda gritted his teeth and ate a bowl of seafood noodles. This is a great encouragement to Chen Gui. I don't know what's going on today, I've always been hungry. Lao Chen, get me a bowl of seafood noodles. Seafood noodles. Chen Gui stood up abruptly, his eyes gleaming. Is your own opportunity here? He glanced at Qinming cautiously, and Qinming also coughed dryly. After all, Niu Junda treats himself as a brother, so he really feels a little sorry to say that he has harmed him. In this way, Lao Niu, let your brother make a bowl for you to taste. If it doesn't taste good, don't pay for it. After a long time, Qinming said cruelly. As a result, after hearing this, Niu Junda kept backing away and waved his hands frantically. Lao Qin, I treat you as a brother, you actually want to hurt me. Ahem, that's not what. Qinming kept winking at Niu Junda. Well, for the sake of a brother, it doesn't matter if I cut your ribs, just a bowl of seafood noodles, you can't die. At this time, Niu Junda was quite determined to break his wrist. In Niu Junda's heart, Qinming occupies an extremely important position. If the girlfriend who has been unlocking new poses in the past few days occupies half of his heart, then Qinming has at least 1/3 as many. This is the best brother he has ever made in his life. None of them. My brother begged to do something like this, how could Niu Junda not giving face? Thinking of this, Niu Junda felt proud. All for brothers. After getting Niu Junda's approval, Chen Gui was so excited that he turned around and rushed into the kitchen. Huo Shusho was cutting vegetables in the kitchen, and seeing Chen Gui rushing in, she immediately raised her kitchen knife and pointed at Chen Gui. Guy brother, you can get out quickly, this is not a place for you to come. Some time ago, Chen Gui ran back to the kitchen after nothing had happened. The famous name is to practice cooking skills. Since Chen Gui is Qinming Hao's age, the Huo sisters did not stop him. But the unexpected happened. Where did this food come to cook? Put all the ingredients in his hands, just like the devil. To say that any change in form is already light, and it is simply different from the others at the atomic level. Every meal you make can be seen, let alone the entrance. Huo Shusho once worked as a guinea mouse, but didn't want to see scrambled eggs with tomatoes for 3 days after eating. It's a nightmare existence. Huo Shusho felt her scalp tingling when she thought of this. As a result, the back kitchen became Chen Gui's forbidden place, and he was not allowed to enter. At this time, Qinming also walked in. No problem, let your brother cook. Huo Shusho and Huo Qingqing's faces changed, and their faces were full of disbelief. Boss, isn't this smashing your own sign? Huo Shusho approached Qinming and whispered. Qinming smiled indifferently. Now there is a top guinea pig, so I can't waste it. Ascension, your cooking skills are imminent. Stop talking, prepare dishes. Not long after, Chen Gui had already put on his apron, and he looked at the iron pan in front of him dignifiedly. The three Qinming watched nervously. I saw Chen Gui picking up the ingredients quite heavily and putting them in the pot according to the steps, everything seemed to be very smooth. Before long, the fragrance of seafood noodles floated out, and the three of them were shocked for a while. Hey, when will Chen Gui really cook? In the shocked eyes of the three of them, a bowl of seafood noodles was completed. Looking at the seafood noodles on the table, Qinming frowned and fell into contemplation. Which step went wrong? Did you actually do it decently? Qinming raised his eyebrows. Chen Gui steamed bun black line. Mako, I didn't take you to ridicule my brother so much. Ahem, no, just a little surprise. Qinming smiled awkwardly, then snapped his fingers. Shusho, go, I am optimistic about you. Huo Shusho was stupid. She stretched out her green fingers and pointed at own nose, me. Boss, you want me to die. It's just a bowl of noodles, hurry up and try it. Huo Qingqing slapped Huo Shusho from behind. No way, with tears in her eyes, Huo Shusho, who looked like she was going to die, stepped forward, mustering great courage in her heart, and added a small piece of noodles into her mouth. Huo Shusho was taken aback by chewing lightly. Yes, this is a normal taste. What? Qinming was stunned. He, who didn't believe in evil, also stepped forward and took a bite. Don't say it, the taste was normal. Although it is not as good as his and Huo Qingqing's cooking skills, it can at least give people the idea of finishing this bowl of noodles. How did you do this? Huo Qingqing also took a sip, his face full of disbelief. After being questioned like this by the three, Chen Gui showed a shy smile on his face. I don't know, just follow the steps you told me. Okay, hurry up and serve. Soon, a bowl of seafood noodles was placed in front of Niu Junda. He held the chopsticks in his hand and looked at the steaming noodles. After all, he did not dare to start. His heart was even more desperate. Why did he want to die? So he insisted on ordering a bowl of seafood noodles. This brought back painful memories to him. Everyone in the shop knew how devil Chen Gui's cooking skills were. At this moment, two figures walked into the store. Why the atmosphere is a bit heavy? Yang Qianqun raised his eyebrows. She saw Niu Junda at a glance, who seemed to be wrestling with a bowl of seafood noodles at this time. It happened that Yang Qianqun was busy all day and was so exhausted that he exploded. Seeing Niu Junda never moved his chopsticks, one of them couldn't help but rushed forward and grabbed the chopsticks. Really, it's really a waste of food not to be enjoyed in front of you. Angrily shouted, Yang Qianqun picked up a chopstick noodle and put it in his mouth to chew. Seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. Trenching, warrior. Rhubarb showed only a dog's head at the door, and when he saw Yang Qianqun's behavior, he couldn't help but throw a thumbs up in his heart. But Niu Junda was dumbfounded, looked at Yang Qianqun, and then at Qin Ming. Qin Ming pretended not to see anything, lowered his head and used his fingers to draw circles on the counter. So similar scenes took place in every corner of the store. Everything also happens between the electric light and flint. After Yang Qianqun took a bite, he fell into a daze, and Niu Junda suddenly slapped his thigh anxiously. Finished. But before he could react, Yang Qianqun chewed lightly again. Quickly swallowing the noodles in his mouth, Yang Qianqun said, how come today's taste is not as good as before? Niu Junda almost stared out his eyes. Then he also grabbed the chopsticks, picked up the noodles and put them in his mouth, his face suddenly full of disbelief. Is this Chen Gui made? The taste is not so unbearable. After tasting it, it was confirmed that there was nothing wrong with the taste. Niu Junda's hanging heart finally let go, and then he and Yang Qianqun began to compete. On the side, Wu Yangyan's face turned blue, who was planning to come over to investigate the intelligence. You two are really... She was speechless in anger, and then walked directly towards the back kitchen. Qin Ming didn't stop him, he had completely let it go. 5 minutes later, she walked out again with a cold face. It was obvious that she hadn't asked anything in the back kitchen, and the two guys Huo Qingqing had a very bad attitude. One sentence directly, do it if you don't agree. Although Wu Yanyan was the youngest emperor-level master in history, she couldn't face the Huo family sisters at the same time after all. Hence the strategic retreat. As soon as she walked out of the back kitchen, she saw Xiao Nianzhu and Su Qingyuan walking in, and suddenly narrowed her eyes. A new idea suddenly popped up in her mind, maybe she could get something useful from Xiao Nianzhu. Immediately, he stepped forward and smiled at Xiao Nianzhu. Nianzhu, how about big sis to teach you training tonight? Xiao Nianzhu had no reason to refuse this request made by Wu Yanyan. She knew that the big sister was even stronger. At the moment, the three of them hurriedly ate their meals and rushed directly to the yard to start training. Qin Ming frowned, what other tricks Wu Yanyan would play? As a result, he almost vomited blood when he saw it. What's so special is radio gymnastics, which is exactly the same as what Yang Qianqun taught. At the same time, Niu Junda and Yang Qianqun have eaten a whole bowl of seafood noodles. I was so hungry, even the noodle soup was all dried up. Old Qin, I have something to do, so let's go first. Niu Junda wiped his mouth and was in a good mood. Originally, he thought it was an extraordinary the underworld-like torture today, but now it does not seem to be the case. As for why the face is red in a good mood, it is not because there is a new posture that can be unlocked at night. To win the first prize from the Guardian Bureau competition, it will take 3 days to revel in how to say. Leaving the store in a hurry, Niu Junda rushed to a hotel. Rubbing his hands, Niu Junda pushed open the door. I saw a white shadow rushing over and hung directly on Niu Junda. This person is his girlfriend Shanur. Shanur hooked Niu Junda's neck with one hand and circled his collar with the other. My dear, people have been waiting for you for a long time. This enchanting voice directly made Niu Junda's bones crisp. He can't wait to fight for 300 rounds right now. Suddenly, Niu Junda grumbled in his stomach, and the peristalsis in his stomach became intense. Although my stomach hurts a bit, it should be fine. He said this in his heart, and then he hugged Shanur and ran directly to the big bed. Then, puff, a stench filled the room instantly. Niu Junda was stunned. Is it so fierce? I can't control it at all. Niu Junda. Shanur couldn't bear the stench, and she pinched her nose and struggled desperately. And Niu Junda was also stunned. At this time, he didn't dare to move at all, as if the muscles on his legs were slightly relaxed, it would gush out like a rushing river. Puff, there was another sound, and the stench continued to permeate. There was a mess in the room for a while. On the other side, in the small courtyard, Xiao Nianzu was sitting profusely on the ground. After being trained by Ouyang Yanyan for a long time, she was so tired that she didn't want to move her finger. Seeing this scene, Ouyang Yanyan's mouth raised an unnoticeable triumphant smile. Nianzu, what do you think of these employees in the store? It's all pretty good. Then, did you find anything different? Xiao Nianzu shook her head, and for a moment Ouyang Yanyan frowned. Then she gave some subtle guidance, but she still didn't ask why. She had previously studied criminal psychology, and she thought she was still a little capable in guiding confessions, and Xiao Nianzu was unprepared at this time, and all she said was the truth. As a result, the problem was not found at all. It's weird, I must have overlooked something. Ouyang Yanyan walked out of the small courtyard, her brows furrowed, her brain spinning fast, trying to see through all falsehoods. But obviously this is useless. No matter how you look at it, these demon kings and demon kings are obsessed with their own role and cannot extricate themselves. Especially the guy with a bunch of white hairs on his head, it can be said that he has done his duty, and the floors and tables in the shop are wiped as clean as a mirror. No way, today's exploration ends here. Ouyang Yanyan also knows that this is not something that can be done overnight, it is a long and great undertaking. She went back without even thinking about it. At night, there was a constant crackling sound from a hotel room. The same is true in an apartment. However, all this did not have any impact, and the entire East Sea city, as usual, was quiet and stable. On the outskirts of the city, in a cemetery. The space oscillated, a dimensional crack appeared in the air, and everything around it was gradually shattered like a mirror. A scarlet thug slowly stretched out from the crack, and then grabbed it outward, as if holding a wall. The space crack was suddenly torn open with a big opening. The passage is unexpectedly unstable, and I didn't expect it to come early. A figure covered in blood came out. The structure of the man was similar to that of a human, but he was 3 meters tall. The firstborn with a single horn, leaning slightly forward, with perfect muscles, following his movements. Just looking at it, you can feel the sense of power rushing toward your face. If you carefully observe the breath he reveals, you will be shocked to find that it is the strength of the emperor. Realm is suppressed so much. The man frowned. If you want to fully recover, it will take at least 3 months or 1,000,000 souls. As he spoke, the man raised his head and looked at Donghai City not far away. A flash of greed flashed in his eyes. White hair, angry god, where's the man? As he whispered softly, his figure gradually disappeared. The white hair who was in a daze in the yard was instantly horrified, and his whole body was agitated. It's not good, that devil emperor has come. Bai Mao couldn't help exclaiming, he felt the call of that person. Cut, it's just a mere devil emperor, there isn't a fart in front of the adults. On the side, Rhubarb sneered, even if the devil emperor's prosperous strength comes, it's just a slap in the face. Makes sense, Bai Mao whispered softly, and his heart was quite settled. After all, he used to be a horse under the devil emperor before, and he knows how cruel and ruthless the other party's methods are. Fortunately, his boss is much stronger than the devil emperor back then. It's fine if you don't do things, if you dare to do things in East Sea City. Rhubarb sneered. White Mao, I think you can find a feng shui treasure in advance, ha ha ha. Bai Mao rolled his eyes. Somehow they are also the devil emperor, face always has to give them something. While talking, Bai Mao took out the optical brains that Qin Ming had equipped for them, and carefully checked the surrounding feng shui treasures. No words for a night. Early in the morning, Ouyang Yanyan sat in the office and frowned. What time is it? Why Yang Qianshan's dead girl hasn't come yet? Ouyang Yanyan didn't have a good airway. She wasted a lot of brain cells yesterday, but she didn't come up with the slightest clue, which made her very angry. I wanted to discuss the follow-up with Yang Qianshan this morning, but this girl is not coming. When she was so angry that she was about to go to Yang Qianshan's residence to arrest people, a pale face, clutching her stomach, walked in with a feeble figure. You, what's wrong with you? Ouyang Yanyan looked at Yang Qianshan's appearance, her eyes almost stared out. At this moment, Yang Qianshan's face was uncolored, his lips were white and his skin exploded, and the whole person looked like he was about to go. Sitting weakly in the chair, Yang Qianshan was weak. Big sister, I said I sat on the toilet all night yesterday, do you believe it? Have loose bowels. Ouyang Yanyan raised her eyebrows. No, with your physical strength, how can you get diarrhea? In that instant, Ouyang Yanyan discovered the clue. You must know that Yang Qianshan is also a god of war-level strength. Generally speaking, the physical quality is quite strong. Martial Dao Great Master may not be able to compare her. Let alone diarrhea, there is no problem with the basic body. So here comes the problem. Why did she have diarrhea? And it seems that the whole night is the whole night. I don't know, just the kind that can't be stopped, you know. Yang Qianshan's face was pale and very weak. Then Ouyang Yanyan began to analyze. First of all, the diarrhea could not be for no reason, so she asked what she ate last night. I went home from the restaurant last night and made myself an egg fried rice. But I often eat egg fried rice, the ingredients are fresh, there shouldn't be a problem. Yang Qianshan's face was incomprehensible. Have you eaten at the restaurant? Ouyang Yanyan said suddenly. Well, that bowl of seafood noodles, one ate about half a bowl. Snapped. Ouyang Yanyan patted the table. She thought of the problem and immediately raised her wrist to contact Niu Junda. Sure enough, Niu Junda also had the same symptoms with this connection. There must be a problem with the food in the store, that enchantress has done something. Ouyang Yanyan gritted her teeth with anger. Is she going to heaven to fail? After all, Huo Qingqing is a cook in the restaurant. She takes care of all the cooking. If something goes wrong, she must be the first to suspect. Is this enchantress warning me? Ouyang Yanyan narrowed her eyes. Could it be that she really touched Huo Qingqing's conspiracy, and because the other party had to hide it, she warned them in this way? But when is it exactly? For a while, Ouyang Yanyan fell into contemplation. Inside Tokai University on the other side, Xiao Nianzhu is undergoing devil training. In the past few days, after Yang Qianshan's systematic training and the devil training provided by the school, Xiao Nianzhu's combat power ascension has been fast. Although Realm is still an intermediate warrior, when he practiced against several teachers, the teachers were afraid. Girl Nianzhu hit her body with a fist that hurts too much. Ms. Xu, do you still have to practice today? Xiao Nianzhu excitedly looked at a teacher and said, I went back and studied the things you taught me yesterday. I feel that I have made some progress. I want to try it. Teacher Xu's expression suddenly twitched. She really didn't want to fight against Xiao Nianzhu. She could see that Xiao Nianzhu was not really scared to death, but she didn't know why the punch was so painful. Haha, Nianzhu, Teacher Xu is a little uncomfortable today. You can ask Teacher Wang to help you. Teacher Xu smiled lightly. Teacher Wang, who was drinking tea next to him, almost choked to death with a sip of hot tea. Oh, my hands seem to be cramped. No way, no, I'm going to the infirmary. Teacher Wang got up directly. Among the three teachers, there was still one man who looked very loyal and honest, and he was stunned. When Xiao Nianzhu's gaze fell on him, his heart was also flustered. That Nianzhu, then, how about looking for you in the afternoon? You can practice by yourself in the morning and ask if you don't understand. Xiao Nianzhu nodded. Although he has not received actual combat training, it is possible to fight against sandbags and wooden stakes. It's just that there isn't that kind of joy to the flesh. Then Xiao Nianzhu started to fight with the sandbag alone, and the little pink fist banged on the sandbag. Just listening to the voice, the three teachers couldn't help but laugh. Not long after, a figure appeared in the martial arts field. The incoming person is Chu Jingyao, who has completely emerged from the psychological shadow. This product has been very unbalanced since it was cleaned up by Xiao Nianzhu before. He practiced martial arts at the age of 3, awakened his guardian spirit at the age of 10, and was 20 this year. The whole 10 years of system training, the combat effectiveness is comparable to that of the guardian of the realm, and it is even better than that of the realm of the same age. Even if it is a cross-realm battle, he is confident. However, in the school competition a few days ago, the talented boy Chu Jingyao was brutally defeated by Waterloo. Being pressed to the ground by an unknown little girl, she had a good meal in front of thousands of students. The only failure in life is so tragic. Young Master Chu Da, who is proud and arrogant, is inevitably upset, and has been practicing hard at home these few days. Today, he decided to take back everything he lost. Qin Nianzhu. Walking into the martial arts ground, Chu Jingyao scolded Xiao Nianzhu who was in the sandbag. There were only a few people in the martial arts training ground, and when the voice went down, everyone was attracted and hurriedly turned their heads to look. Xiao Nianzhu looked at Chu Jingyao even more confused. You call me? Xiao Nianzhu raised her eyebrows, at the same time vigilant. After the last exchange, Xiao Nianzhu had already knocked a bad brain mark on Chu Jingyao's head, and even planned to run away from it in the future. Xiao Nianzhu was puzzled now that the goods came to the door. Humph, let's fight again. I was careless last time, this time I must teach you a bitter lesson. Chu Jingyao snorted coldly and suddenly appeared on the ring. He has a tall and straight face with a cold and arrogant face. Quite a strong aura of a generation of great masters. For a while, everyone looked at Chu Jingyao on the arena in a daze. Su Qingyuan frowned, why this bad-headed guy came to trouble again. The lessons from last time were not enough. This classmate, are you going to challenge Nianzhu? Teacher Wang, who had cramped hands before, spoke slowly. Oh, challenge her. What qualifications does she have? Chu Jingyao snorted coldly. I came here this time just to prove that in the previous battle, I let her. Teacher Wang was speechless for a while. This strong aura and thick-skinned classmate really did not live or die. Although the opponent is a high-ranking general, the same is true of Teacher Wang realm. But even as a teacher, he was so experienced in combat that he was unwilling to fight against Xiao Nianzhu. This shows how terrifying Nianzhu's strength ascension is now. You go, I don't want to fight you. Xiao Nianzhu raised her eyebrows. He coldly hummed in his heart. This man really has a problem with his brain, so why does he want to fight with me? When Chu Jingyao on the ring heard the words, his brows furrowed and his expression was sullen. At the same time he gritted his teeth. Do you want to play with me? I should have thought of it a long time ago. You, a woman with deep intentions, want to use this method to deepen my impression. At the moment, Chu Jingyao snorted coldly. Today you have to fight, and if you don't, you have to fight. You and I, only one can get out of this martial arts training ground. However, I can add a condition. If you can beat me, I can give you a chance to ask me. The sound was not loud, but everyone in the audience could hear it clearly. Good guy, it's so narcissistic that it explodes. Su Qingyuan can't wait to grit his teeth and roar, who wants to date you? Xiao Nianzhu was also stunned, and she didn't understand what Chu Jingyao's brain circuit was. The thinking is a bit exaggerated. On the ring, Chu Jingyao had a sneer smile on his face. Doesn't you woman just want to date Ben Xiao? Such a good opportunity to put in front of you, I don't believe you are not moved. However, Xiao Nianzhu flicked the ponytail behind her head. I reject. Ha, do you dare to refuse me? Chu Jingyao couldn't believe his own ears, and was shocked in his heart. Good means, can you stand it at this time? This classmate, since Nianzhu doesn't agree, please leave now and don't affect their training. Teacher Wang spoke again. However, Chu Jingyao naturally ignored it. He jumped off the ring one by one and walked straight to Nianzhu. Woman, don't know what is good or bad. I only give you this one chance. Are you annoying? Xiao Nianzhu looked unhappy. I said I don't want to fight with you, please go out and don't affect my training. Yes, you are too shameless, right? Su Qingyuan ran forward and shouted. For a while, it was Chu Jingyao's turn. It seemed that the script wasn't written like that. Shouldn't it be that Qin Nianzhu had heard that he had the opportunity to date his young master, so she agreed decisively. Chu Jingyao had been prepared for a long time. As long as Qin Nianzhu agreed to the competition, she would never have the chance to win. But I never thought that people would not agree at all. Very well, you are the first woman who dared to refuse me. For a while, Chu Jingyao also came angrily. If this is the case, then fight here. When the voice fell, Chu Jingyao coldly hummed and shot directly. It happened that Su Qingyuan was standing between Xiao Nianzhu and Chu Jingyao. Su Qingyuan reacted as soon as the other party acted, and immediately wanted to stop it. But because of her poor combat experience and she leaned forward a bit, Chu Jingyao punched Su Qingyuan on the shoulder. Although this punch was not painful to Su Qingyuan, it fell into Nianzhu's eyes and ignited directly. You are so unreasonable, you actually bullied my friend. Nianzhu, I'm fine, Su Qingyuan hurriedly said. But Xiao Nianzhu obviously didn't want to stop there, and saw that she walked directly into the ring with a cold face. Come up, I'll fight you. After successfully tempting the other party to agree, Chu Jingyao raised a successful sneer at the corner of his mouth, and flew directly into the ring. That posture, if there are fans around, will definitely arouse cheers. In the audience, the three teachers hurriedly blocked the situation. Just kidding, Qin Nianzhu is already very strong in normal times. At this time, it is obvious that she is angry, and if she is angry, she is afraid that something will happen. But blocking has no effect. The first time Chu Jingyao took the stage, Xiao Nianzhu had already rushed up, and Chu Jingyao was shocked by the speed. Actually engaged in a sneak attack. Chu Jingyao hurriedly raised his hand to resist the attack, and at the same time retreated 2 steps, wanting to fight back. But when Nianzhu's girl hit his chest with a fist, Chu Jingyao was dumbfounded. Boom! With a muffled sound, his body couldn't help flying upside down, and slammed into the pillar of the ring. At that moment, Chu Jingyao only felt like he was hammered into the chest by a sledgehammer. Looking at the strength, it is obviously the kind of 80 hammer. Moreover, the power of this punch was more than a bit stronger than the first time the two played against each other, and he almost couldn't hold back a squirt of blood. Hey, wait a minute. Chu Jingyao immediately raised his hand and shouted. But Xiao Nianzhu, who was angry, refused to give it a chance, stepped forward, shielded the empty door in front of her with her left hand, and smashed her right hand with a round punch. In an instant, Chu Jingyao got goosebumps all over his body, and he had a hunch that if he was hit by this punch, he would lose a layer of skin if he didn't die. At the moment, he did not dare to hesitate, mobilizing all his strength, and at the same time fully blocking it with his hands. Boom! It was the same as the last time. Chu Jingyao took off on the spot, turning half a circle in the air, and finally the handsome face came into close contact with the ring. Stop! Upon seeing the situation, Teacher Wang screamed out, and at the same time rushed to the ring to block Xiao Nianzhu. Seeing this, the other 2 teachers finally breathed a sigh of relief. After a few days of training, they naturally knew the strength of Xiao Nianzhu, Ascension, but if they didn't stop her, she was afraid that she could beat Chu Jingyao's head into a dog's head at this time. From the beginning to the end, in just 5 seconds, Xiao Nianzhu shot a total of 2 punches and directly put Chu Jingyao on the ground. For a while, Chu Jingyao was confused. He actually lost again, and this time he lost so fast that he was knocked over with 2 punches. How so? At this moment, there was only one sentence floating in his mind. Xiao Nianzhu glanced at Chu Jingyao, who was stunned on the ground, and snorted coldly, her eyes full of disgust. Take it away, lift it to me quickly. Teacher Wang shouted at the students who were in a daze. At the moment, the 2 of them carried Chu Jingyao out of the martial arts training ground, and Chu Jingyao was also very cooperative, and did not struggle in the whole process. Do not. After a while, Chu Jingyao finally reacted and shouted sternly. This is impossible. How could I lose? Fortunately, there was only one doctor in the infirmary. At this time, he pushed his own glasses and looked at Chu Jingyao under the lenses, as if looking at a mentally retarded person. Such an episode was nothing to Xiao Nianzhu, who was in the training of the devil. It was just a little unhappy in her heart. After defeating Chu Jingyao easily, she continued to anger at the sandbag. The poor sandbag has endured the pain it shouldn't bear at this age. In the evening, after a day of training, Xiao Nianzhu's mood improved a lot. What people didn't expect was that as soon as he walked out of the school gate, he ran into Chu Jingyao, who was squatting. Qin Nianzhu, stop for me. Chu Jingyao was furious, holding his stomach full of anger all afternoon, and now finally seeing Qin Nianzhu, he immediately rushed forward to grab her wrist. It's just that Xiao Nianzhu reacted faster, holding Su Qingyuan's little hand and ran directly to the house. Stop me. In the rear, Chu Jingyao was chasing like a mental illness. At the entrance of the Shenling Hotel, Rhubarb is like an old dog, lying on the ground with squinted eyes, his two front paws alternate with each other, his eyes constantly sweeping past pedestrians. It's another dull and boring day. Another time wasted in vain. Hey, when will Lord go get a bite of your branch? Rhubarb couldn't help but look at the branch about 1 meter out of the wall, slowly leaving saliva at the corner of his mouth. While thinking, it suddenly turned its head, and saw Xiao Nianzhu and Su Qingyuan trotting towards this side. Behind them, a figure followed closely. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.